done. Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.
And so, at last, it comes to this. The end of all things, the Acolyte finale. The one where all of the thrilling plot threads that the writers haven't already managed to contradict, cut off, or forget about come to be contradicted, cut off, and forgotten about. The one where any remaining predictions we have about this story that involved any creativity on our part are disqualified on the grounds that had they come true, they'd have made for a better show. The one where, in line with the Acolyte's guiding principles, the only predictions with a chance of coming true result from us correctly guessing the worst decisions the writers could feasibly have made. If you strike it down, it becomes much worse than you could possibly imagine. This video is quite the undertaking. After the first 10 minutes of episode 8, I was genuinely struggling to conceive of a script that wasn't just 8 hours of the word lol. But here we are, and there's a lot to cover, and we're so close to the end. We are just a couple of hours away from being able to boast that our sanity survived the insanity of the Acolyte. The state of play coming into the finale is this. Having been given the impression in episode 3 that the lesbian space witches of Brendok had been killed by an evil Jedi conspiracy, that the Jedi themselves were evil and dogmatic child snatchers, and that the fire that destroyed Fort Vagina may have had more to do with their malfeasance than with evil twin Fanny Mae burning her sister's notebook, episode 7's thrilling reveal was that pretty much none of that is true. The Jedi were well-intentioned idiots who did nothing morally wrong. The witches really brought it on themselves by gang raping the minds of Padawans unprovoked and spontaneously turning into evil smoke demons. And evil twin Fanny Mae really was responsible for destroying her home because she really did try to burn her sister alive because she loved her too much and didn't want her to leave. Naturally, the Jedi were so ashamed of doing pretty much entirely the right thing in the circumstances that they decided to orchestrate some kind of lame cover-up to give the show an excuse to happen. This cover-up remained intact because the Jedi Council never bothered asking any questions of the Force stationed on Brendok, even though they'd been sent to find a Force Virgin and had proved its existence by doing blood tests on the twins that confirms they are one consciousness split into 2 bodies. Kind of, but also not really. As I pretty much predicted way back in episode 1, an adult Fanny Mae has been on a mission to kill those 4 Jedi for the heinous crime of doing nothing particularly wrong, though she ditched that mission when she learned that her sister, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, was still alive, even though when they were last together she tried to kill her. She then picked that mission up again when her evil master Smilo Ren tried to kill her on the forest world of Kofar because she told him she was betraying him and ditching the mission, only then to ditch the mission again when she had a chance to kill Jedi Master Squid Game while disguised as her sister. This is because Fanny Mae is primarily motivated by revenge, and also primarily motivated by justice, but never at the same time. It entirely depends on which particular scene we're talking about. Kill the Jedi, surrender to the Jedi, run away from the Jedi, kill the Jedi, get the Jedi to confess to the crimes they did not commit, kill the Jedi. As I've laid out in previous videos, Fanny Mae is not really a character, she's more like Gollum times 15 or maybe 16. We left off her present tense storyline with her cuffed to a bed by Squid Game, who said he was going to confess his crimes that he didn't commit to the High Council, just as he said he should have done 16 years ago, only then to turn off his transponder and run away from the High Council and, so I predicted, take Fanny Mae back to Brendok in order that he not have to confess to anyone until they arrive there for him to confess when it's too late, because he does still want to confess to them, maybe, sometimes. All of this happened because Squid Game has a special Force connection to Occupational Safety and Health Administration and was able to sense her specifically over great distances, which he temporarily forgot he could do when Fanny Mae switched places with her, and which he shouldn't have been able to do anyway given the whole premise is that Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Fanny Mae are the same person where the Force is concerned. This meant he confused Fanny Mae for Occupational Safety and Health Administration when Fanny Mae stole Occupational Safety and Health Administration's clothes and flew off with her, leaving Occupational Safety and Health Administration to be picked up by Smilo Ren, who took her back to his island home that I pretty much predicted would be Bemnik from the Darth Plagueis books, and I mentioned that now for no reason in particular. Smilo proceeded to try and turn Occupational Safety and Health Administration to the dark side by showing her his helmet in both senses of the word. And this play was as likely to work as not because Occupational Safety and Health Administration isn't a character and she has no settled wants or motives. When last we saw her, she was donning Smilo's Cortosis helmet that can short out lightsabers except where he forgets that that's what it does, and that he calls a sensory deprivation helmet even though you can see and hear through it, and which stops other people people using the Force to read your mind, except where it doesn't do that anymore. Since I predicted that Squid Game would be taking Fannie Mae back to Brendok, I figured it would be predictable and tedious if Smilo also ended up taking Occupational Safety and Health Administration back there for the finale. But that naturally begged questions about Smilo's own character and origins. What was his connection to Brendok? How did he find Fannie Mae? How is he tied to the witches? Who trained him in the dark side? Which former Jedi Master left that snaky scar on his otherwise lovely skin? I had some theories about all that, but as always happens with this show, they had to be abandoned for being far too interesting and generally connected to the plot. But we'll come back to Smilo later. For now, and for one last time, let's make like Harvey, ply the title slate with drinks and narcotics until it can't resist, and smash the living fuck out of it. The opening recap for episode 8 is comfortably more than a minute long, and you get the sense some wily editor snuck it in there in a desperate bid to get the writers to remember something of what they've set up. It doesn't work, sadly, and it only really serves to remind the audience how fractured and scattergun the entire plot has been. You've got Squid Game there asking how the twins were created, and then half answering his own question with this line,
"Only a virgin could create that type of power."
This is as much as we're getting, by the way. The recap seems to treat this as an open question that might get resolved in this episode, but it's not resolved in this episode except insofar as it was already resolved in episode 7. They know and we know that the twins were made using the power of a virgins. They know and we know that the twins are the same person, even though they're really not and it makes no sense. And that's pretty much it. The Jedi got all this information from the blood tests too, but they never bothered telling the Jedi Council about any of that for reasons. But this episode has absolutely nothing to add, so who really gives a shit? We never learn how a virgins was used to create them, and that's because, as I've been saying since at least episode 4, this show has been written with the presumption of a second season in mind, and oh boy does this episode bear out that suspicion. Then we see Squid Game stabbing Mother A in his eye because she jump scared him as a smoke demon before telling him she was going to hand over Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which stupidity we don't need to revisit here except for this one comment. And then we see Trinity trying to stop the rest of the witches from gang-raping Kilnaka's mind, accidentally killing them in the attempt. Not to dwell on material covered in my last video, but this really is important later in this episode. This means that the objective charge made against the Jedi is that they killed people in self-defense, which is obviously not wrong. That means that if hypothetically a certain nice Jedi Master were to be assailed with allegations of wrongdoing later in this episode, and even killed because of said wrongdoing, the assailer and the killer are striking a victory for evil. But I'm sure there's no way Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant would ever vindicate evil, so that's a purely hypothetical scenario. Surely there must be something else. Surely the Jedi must really have done something wrong and we've just not seen it yet. Otherwise, they've been covering up the fact that they did nothing very much wrong, mild stupidity aside, and that would be an unforgivably dumb premise for a Star Wars show with a $180 million budget.
What will we tell the Council?
May burned down the witch's fortress and everyone was lost.
This is their cover-up story. It is also what actually occurred, making it not much of a cover-up story to begin with.
How odd. Turns up all these years later, trained by one of our own. I fear Mae is only a small part of her master's larger plan.
Ah, yes. This line from episode 4, this must be in the recap because this is the episode, the finale, the last one, 8 episodes in, that establishes a link between the main antagonist and the A-plot of the show. Now, I'm going to assume you've all forgotten about the rest of episode 4 because why the fuck would you remember? But this line annoyed me at the time for being obviously forced and unsupported by the evidence available to the Jedi. After all, in the not Jedi Council meeting, where Jedi who aren't on the Council because they can't inform the Council except that Kyber-Mundi was there so things are broken anyway, gathered to speak about recent events and murders, they have a number of equally plausible theories for Fannie Mae's origin and that of her master.
Could this be a splinter order? Or something worse?
The fact Green Bean, having heard this, then went heavy on trained by one of our own, was thought by some viewers to be evidence of her nefarious involvement in events. Yet this is not quite true, because, as we'll shortly see, while she does have a history with Smilo, she has no idea at the moment this line is spoken that Smilo is involved at all. She learns that for the first time later, so this recap helpfully reminds us that the show has absolutely no idea how to write a mystery plot, where there's a chain of evidence and situation where small initial clues seed the ultimate revelation. She says one of our own, even though the other two theories are just as valid based on what the show actually presented to us and them, because the show needs that to be true, and so it has a character assume it's true before she has the evidence required to justify that assumption.
He says, your final lesson is when you teach yourself. You will kill a Jedi without a weapon.
An old favorite, that line. An old favorite for the way the show has completely failed to make it make any kind of sense whatsoever. I'm not quite sure why it's even in the recap, given this episode does practically nothing with it. A character will use the Force to kill another character later, but why that should be acceptable in a way convincing Tommen to kill himself is not, will never, ever be clear. As I've said many times, the line serves a purely mechanical function, enabling the show to feature Jedi in combat with non-lightsaber wielding opponents and not immediately having them win, which has long been in search of a diegetic reason, and we'll hit the end of this episode with that search incomplete.
Have you forgotten who we are? Where we come from? They've brainwashed you.
This bit of the recap, this is pretty much entirely disconnected from everything else in the recap, but it's probably the most important line for the episode that follows. Events in this episode determine that Occupational Safety and Health Administration will inevitably see through the lies of the Jedi, will come to see the truth as Fannie Mae sees it, which makes it very inconvenient that the Jedi didn't really lie, and Occupational Safety and Health Administration has been brainwashed into accepting events pretty much as they occurred. Fannie Mae got irrationally angry and burned down the entire fortress in a bid to kill her sister. That is all true. That is all what happened. But we'll deal with that madness presently.
You need to find your master. But first, you and I are going to talk.
It's only worth noting this line because no attempt is ever made to find Smilo, and Squid Game is demonstrating one of the show's most infuriating tropes. I have something to tell you. Suddenly, interruption. Squid Game told Occupational Safety and Health Administration he would tell her everything in episode 4, but then he was interrupted by Smilo. He told her again that he'd tell her everything in episode 5, but then he was interrupted by Fannie Mae. In episode 6, he told Fannie Mae disguised as Occupational Safety and Health Administration that he would tell the Council everything, but was interrupted by suddenly power cuts. Then he delayed telling her everything long enough for suddenly power restored, where he was interrupted by Fannie Mae trying to contact the Council, and he stunned her to stop her even though she was trying to contact the people he said he was going to tell, while not telling her even though he thought she was Occupational Safety and Health Administration and he'd promised to tell Occupational Safety and Health Administration. And then, having said he'd tell the Council everything, he deactivated his transponder before they could reach him so he could run away from them in order to tell Fannie Mae everything, only to be interrupted by the end credits of episode 6, and we'll begin episode 8 with him saying he'll tell her everything, then getting interrupted by her stunning him, even though in episode 6 she was trying to get him to tell her everything, and then he'll turn on his transponder to bring in the Jedi he ran away from in episode 6, even though he said he'd tell them everything then, in order that he can tell them everything now, but of course it'll be too late and he'll be interrupted before he can, because that's how writing works in The Acolyte. Isn't it amazing?
Below the surface of consciousness are powerful emotions. Anger, fear, desire.
That's the path to the dark side.
This bit of the recap omits that Smilo's chief appeal to Occupational Safety and Health Administration was getting his dick out, which he did pretty much instantly, even though Fannie Mae had never seen his face in all her time training with him. But never mind, it's the foreshadowing bit of the recap, because Occupational Safety and Health Administration is inevitably going to wind up turning to the dark side, and yeah, you'll see.
A sensory deprivation headpiece. Try it on. So it's just you and the Force, and what you bring with you.
And this rounds off the recap. A little bit more foreshadowing. Occupational Safety and Health Administration is bringing the dark side in with her. Her anger, her suppressed rage. You'll probably have missed this because at no point does Amanda Stenberg act in this show, and there were precisely 3 bits of dialogue across the entire season setting this up. Squid Game telling the audience that Occupational Safety and Health Administration is angry in episode 2, because otherwise we would have completely missed it.
I didn't know you were still so angry.
NordVPN telling her that her sister was always her wound, because otherwise we'd have missed it.
May has always been your wound.
And Smilo telling her that she's angry and that she failed because otherwise we might have missed it.
They didn't throw me away.
Then why aren't you a Jedi? Why aren't you a Jedi, Osha?
Because I failed!
And all of this leads to her putting on the helmet for the sheer lack of anything else to do with her character. This thing, which I'll resentfully call an arc, contradicts more than it pays off. We know Occupational Safety and Health Administration dropped out from Jedi School, but we don't actually know what that failure entailed. And the show never once gives us the impression she was consumed by her anger. Quite the opposite, in fact. Because if she'd failed because she'd been consumed by anger, then Squid Game, her master with that deep and special connection to her, would have no cause to be surprised that she was still angry in episode 2. And if she was still consumed by rage at her sister, she'd not have been preparing to leave Coruscant at the beginning of episode 4 because her sister was somebody else's problem and she didn't care. And if her piss was still positively boiling because of what her sister did to her, then she wouldn't have blandly and dispassionately tried to arrest her sister after their brief reunion chat at the end of episode 5. For someone whose entire arc, culminating in the drastic decisions she'll make later in this episode, relies on this unquenched rage about her past, Occupational Safety and Health Administration has spent about 90% of her time being more tediously well-adjusted than a fucking Buddhist. But that's how character writing works in The Acolyte. Occupational Safety and Health Administration donning the helmet serves as the transition into episode 8 proper. Episode 6 ended in perforated blackness with nothing but the sound of her breathing, which is how we begin here. She begins convulsing for reasons, and this alarms Smilo, but when he tries to help her, he contracts a bad case of the demon eyes and has to fight against the sheer force of her blandness to get the helmet off. There are a couple of things to note here. Yes, I'm going to bitch again about the fact this is a sensory deprivation helmet you can both see and hear through, which makes it not a sensory deprivation helmet. I'm also going to bitch that the point of this helmet, both earlier in the show and later in this episode, is to prevent anyone using the Force to read your mind. Yet here, Occupational Safety and Health Administration being left with nothing but the Force establishes some sort of Force connection between her and Smilo, which the helmet is supposed to prevent. And I'm also going to bitch that Occupational Safety and Health Administration being left alone with the Force wouldn't have been possible even 4 episodes ago, because she went through the first half of the show having no connection to the Force whatsoever. She couldn't use it, even when she tried while escaping the prison ship that she should never have been on, but fuck it, it's done. Get over it, you sad nerds. You just have to hate everything, even though the Acolyte has literally given you everything you ever asked for. Me and my 73 tangled chromosomes can't understand why you have to be such a toxic right-wing grifter with all your perfectly valid and substantiated story complaints. Why can't you just drink the slop, you bigot? I heart sexy Smilo, he's so pretty. There is a specific moment in episode 4 where the show decides it'd probably be handy if she had the Force after all.
I was able to sense that creature, but I disturbed it, and now it's dead.
It's always an honor to get to witness anything or anyone transform into the Force.
At the time, I kind of assumed we'd get some sort of explanation for this later, because there was the square root of tardation reasons why she should suddenly rediscover her connection to the Force in that specific moment. No, it wasn't proximity to her sister, because she'd been in proximity to Fanny Mae in episode 2, and Fanny Mae had the use of the Force irrespective of her proximity to Occupational Safety and Health Administration. There was nothing about the planet. Hofar was completely irrelevant. It wasn't her connection to Smilo, because they had no connection at that point, and they'd been in the same room anyway in episode 2. So yeah, I felt justified in expecting some kind of explanation for her rediscovering this connection. The Acolyte disagreed though, so never mind. She just got the Force again because she needs it now, and that's why it works. The simple and sensible way of fixing this stupidity would be for her not to suddenly rediscover the Force in episode 4, because it's completely irrelevant in that moment and in every moment between that moment and this one. If we'd surfaced in dialogue throughout the show that she lost her connection to the Force, that she no longer feels it, that she cannot use it, that she cut herself off from it because she feared the uses to which she might put it. If we'd had this conversation between she and Squid Game, he encouraging her to try again, her failing to his despair, then all of this could have come to a head at the end of episode 6, where Smilo encourages her to put the helmet on. He could tell her it's a sensory deprivation helmet, that there's nothing in there but you and the Force. She could respond that she doesn't have the Force, reinforcing her sense of abandonment, not only by the Jedi but by the Force itself, which is tragic. Smilo could encourage her. The Force is with you even if it's hard to see. Reach out and you will feel it, etc. Suddenly and powerfully reconnecting with the Force while wearing the helmet would further Smilo's appeal to her as a surrogate master, someone who could pass her feelings of inadequacy and her separation from the Force as a consequence of the Jedi's narrow-minded and dogmatic approach. You aren't a failure, Occupational Safety Safety and Health Administration, Smilo could say, they made you a failure. Let me help you. Put this on. You see, it really is as easy as that. You were never meant to be confined to a cage in their temple, and I'm not trying to chain you. The Force will set you free, and so on. But all of that would have turned the scene into a kind of character beat, changing her view of Smilo and of the Jedi, associating her newfound power with Smilo's teachings, increasing his allure by shattering her lingering faith in Squid Game. The Acolyte doesn't really do character beats like that, though. Smilo's already showed her his dick, and that was enough to get her thinking with her vagina, which is where women's brains live. This scene is not meant to further any of that. Its one and only function is to jam the plot into fast forward. Occupational Safety and Health Administration sees the future now. Yay!
I saw Mae. She had her hand outstretched. She was killing souls. She had a saber in her hand, but she didn't use it.
This is the future you saw.
Are you sure about that, Smilo? She just stuck a sensory deprivation helmet on her head. Maybe she had a panic attack.
Difficult to see. Always in motion is the future.
But no, Yoda, it's not. You were only a 900-year-old Grand Master of the Jedi and one of the most powerful Force users to ever exist. You don't know shit about predicting the future. Smilo watched Occupational Safety and Health Administration wear that helmet for all of 30 seconds. I think they know what they're talking about. Obviously, this scene is meant to be the show's last attempt to bait and switch the twins, which doesn't really work at all because the show has lately decided they are the same person, an idea it has literally no idea what to do with. And yes, I am using the word literally correctly. Nor does it really work, because the Acolyte is as subtle as someone smashing your testicles with boxing gloves made of brick. What's this? I, the twin being seduced by the guy who puts the D in dark side, have fortuitously seen the future, and this means we must go to Brendok, where I already know Squid Game and Fanny Mae are. Osha kills Squid Game. I, who am the same person as my twin, saw in this future my twin about to kill Squid Game. Osha kills Squid Game. I, who the show keeps telling us is brainwashed and fatally undermined by suppressed rage, not that anybody noticed. Watch my twin sister, who is the same person as me, who is turning to the dark side, killing Squid Game? Osha kills Squid Game. Oh, yeah, I'm sure that's exactly how it's gonna play out. God damn that Fanny Mae, here she goes, killing again. Yeah, it's definitely gonna be her. There's absolutely no way there could be any sort of twist in this telling. Osha kills Squid Game.
She can kill with no weapon.
She's already killed with no weapon, you bucket of lady liquid. She persuaded Tommen to kill himself. If, and spoilers, Occupational Safety and Health Administration kills Squid Game, I mean Fanny Mae uses the Force to kill Squid Game, then she could always have done that anyway. Look at her here, Force pushing Trinity into a wall. Are you telling me that if she'd Force pushed her off a cliff instead, that would have counted? By killing without a weapon, do you really just mean killing with the Force? Then why not say that? Stupid, sexy Smilo.
But the future isn't fixed. I can still stop her.
And why exactly would Smilo want you to stop her? Why would he even want you to have a chance to stop her? Remember, the last time he had a proper conversation with Fanny Mae, she strung him up in a trap and told him she was going to ditch the mad revenge quest and go inform the Jedi about everything she knew, even though she could literally have done this at any point in the last 16 years, even though her sister being alive didn't change anything, even though she had no reason to suppose her sister was dead to begin with, even though we were explicitly told she had no idea who Smilo is, so she couldn't have betrayed him, even though she went back to trying to kill Squid Game after the fact, even though she went back to not trying to do that after the fact. If she's going to kill Squid Game, and when you last spoke to her she wasn't going to kill Squid Game, then from your perspective, Smilo, this is a massive upgrade. You've still got Occupational Safety and Health Administration trapped here with you, and you're trying to flirt her to the dark side at this very moment. Why do you care?
With what ship? I'm taking mine.
Going where exactly? I've seen where they are.
So we go together and see who gets to her first.
But you just got done telling us the future isn't fixed. Who's to say they're even going to Brendok? It can't be fixed for plot necessary information, but not fixed for plot necessary ambiguity.
That's not how the Force works.
And hey, here's an idea, Smilo. Read her mind. Read her fucking mind. Everyone can read minds in this show. It's second only to reading the script as far as power levels go, and only most of the characters can read the script. Occupational Safety and Health Administration isn't wearing the helmet. Read her mind. mind. Or hell, use your own mind, you spanner. Guilty Jedi Master Squid Game, who you believe is racked with self-doubt and hiding secrets, is now taking Fannie Mae off somewhere for an important reason? I wonder which of the one planets that are significant to both of them that could be. Listen, Smilo looks cool. Jacinto is a pretty good actor. I like the size of his lightsaber hilt. These are all good things. But he's evidently been spending too much time around Occupational Safety and Health Administration, because he really doesn't have much by way of drive or motive at the moment. One of the reasons I ran through several predictions tying him to the events on Brendok, or having to do with some shared backstory with Squid Game, is that it seemed to me to be essential that Smilo had a vengeance motive of his own. His stated goals in episode 5 of wanting the freedom to use the Force in his own way and the freedom to have an apprentice could all have been achieved in a whole galaxy's worth of ways that didn't involve him intersecting with the plot of this show and risking himself by sending his apprentice off after these 4 Jedi in particular. Smilo has to want something, and that want has to compel his involvement in this story in particular. He has to have something in common with Fannie Mae if he's willing to brook the risk that aiding her personal vendetta represents to him. Now we're about to see something rather tragic that suggests his motives may have something to do with the Force Virgins, and so with these twins specifically. But even that can't explain his actions in this scene, because he's already got one of the twins in his possession, and he has no personal grudge against Squid Game. We'll learn later he should have a personal grudge against Master Greenbean, but they don't intersect at all in this show until one of the final scenes of this episode. He doesn't even seem to suspect she's following Squid Game's trail. In fact, there's a scene later where he quite obviously didn't know she was coming, and her presence causes him momentary surprise, so his actions can't be explained by trying to bait her out. If Smilo wants an apprentice, he's already got Occupational Safety and Health Administration right here, and he's evidently more interested in her because he showed her his dick and he didn't even show Fannie Mae his face. If he wants both twins together because his true master is interested in the Force Virgins, then his actions at the end of this episode make absolutely no sense at all. For the course, nobody's actions at the end of this episode make any sense at all, but it undercuts the theory he's playing along to get the twins together, as does his willingness to kill Fannie Mae in episode 5. And if he's not personally invested in Squid Game getting killed because this was never his mission, then he has no particular reason to leave his island at this time. This entire thing, seeing the future, why sure, I'll fly you there, we can make it a fun little race, it all just smacks of contrivance. This has to happen because the show needs it to happen, but one of the primary agents involved in making it happen has no solid reason to want it to happen in this way. Oh, speaking of things that have to happen even though none of the agents involved have solid reasons to want them to happen in this way, we jump away to Brendok.
Where are we?
Brendok.
Yeah, I just said that. Squid Game left off episode 6, telling Fannie Mae he had something very important to tell her. Then he was interrupted, because of course he was. At no point on the journey here has he told her what terrifically important thing he so urgently has to tell her, because if he'd already done that, then, well, fuck.
I will contact Master Vanestra. The Jedi will meet us here.
Why though? Why here? The Jedi already know about Brendok. They sent you to Brendok 16 years ago. You filed all your reports from there. You were sent there to investigate a virgin, so they already knew about that. Your cover-up included pretty much all the truthful information about what happened next. You found some Force-sensitive witches, they had twin children, you were concerned for their safety, one of them burned the fortress down, there was only one survivor, isn't it tragic? The Jedi already know about the twins because Trinity explicitly asked them for permission to go in and rescue them.
The Council said no. They will not sanction bringing the twins to Coruscant or separating them from their coven. They say that we have interfered too much already.
Oh, and by the way, this is a little bit fucky because per episode 7, the Jedi Council already knows about the twins. Yet per episode 1, there was nothing in the records about Occupational Safety and Health Administration having a twin, even though YordVPN knows all about her sister and the manner of her death in episodes 1 and 4. The only thing the Jedi Council doesn't know, seemingly, is that the twins were born from the Force Virgins and are, in some entirely ill-defined way, the same person, even though the reason Trinity gave for the cover-up was that they'd already ruined Occupational Safety and Health Administration's life and had no right to ruin it by telling the Council the truth, which makes no fucking sense, because you'd think telling the Council about her origin, which the Jedi on Brendok had already proven because they deduced it from the blood tests, which you think they'd have backed up on a computer somewhere, well, that would have made the Jedi Order much more likely to take Occupational Safety and Health Administration in than not, given how rare and important she is. Oh, but that's all last episode stuff. For the purposes of this video, what does bringing the Jedi to Brendok for a big reveal actually reveal? The only thing Squid Game ever tries to reveal in this episode is that the twins were born of a virgin and are the same person, whatever the fuck that means. This is something he could have done on Kofar, but he deactivated his transponder and ran away instead. This is something he could have done on Coruscant, but he ran away to Brendok instead. And now he's going to reactivate his transponder to bring the Jedi to Brendok so he can give them information that wasn't in any way altered by it being told on Brendok, because the Jedi already know about Brendok. And Master Greenbean shouldn't even need to wait for his transponder signal, given she knows all about Brendok and she knows there were things Squid Game hadn't told her about Brendok and that he's been keeping secrets about Brendok, so it was reasonable for her to suppose that that is where he was headed. But this wouldn't be an Acolyte episode if we didn't try and explode the very idea of time, so rather than making that very obvious and very justified assumption, this is the chain of events that unfolded between episodes 6 and 8. Squid Game sent the distress signal from Kofar. Master Greenbean assembled a crack team of dweebs, including corn-faced Brit Fag here, and hyperspaced all the way from Coruscant to Kofar on the Outer Rim. Mere seconds before she arrived there, Squid Game, having said he'd face the High Council, turned off his transponder and ran away so he didn't have to face the High Council. In the time it took him to get to Brendok and tell Fanny he had something to tell her, Greenbean went on a 3-hour trek into the Kofar forest without a guide, because she's just that good. Then she investigated an entire crime scene. Then she went on a 3-hour trek back to her ship. Then she hyperspaced all the way from Kofar on the Outer Rim back to Coruscant to have a chat with some senators. And in all that time, Squid Game told Fanny Mae, "We are going to talk. Here we are on Brendok." Time. Who gives a shit about time?
There is a virgin on this planet. Now that you and Osha are both alive, I can prove it.
Squid Game, they were both always alive. Actually, you know what? No, it's not your fault you didn't write the stupid line. Leslye, they were both always alive. You don't mean, now you're both alive, because that implies one of them was actually dead. You mean, now that I found the two of you. Although now we're on the subject, no, that still doesn't work. It still doesn't work for two reasons. In the first place, you don't have both the twins with you, you only have one. And at the moment, there's nothing to tell you that Occupational Safety and Health Administration will be coming to join you on Brendok. Unless you've been secretly reading the script again, Squid Game, you cheeky fuck, maybe that's why you look so depressed. If you need both twins in your possession to prove there's a virgence, which you don't, then you're stuck until you find Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which you said you were going to do at the end of episode 6, though it seems like you've forgotten. If you only need one twin, then you could have proved it all at any point between taking Occupational Safety and Health Administration as your Padawan and her leaving the temple, and then any time between you picking her up again in episode 1 and then losing her on Kofar. Given part of your big reveal is that the twins are the same person, and we will try to make sense of that later, if only to prove that it makes no sense, then why would you need both of them to make your point? To show that there are two people with the same symbionts, whatever that means? That was part of the blood test reveal in the last episode, but if that's how you're planning on proving it, then you don't need either twin, because you figured this out purely from the blood tests, meaning the Jedi Council should know about it already, because there was no reason at all for you not to hand those blood tests over. And if the goal is just to prove there's a virgins on Brendok, then you still don't need either twin, because you were sent to Brendok to investigate a virgins the council already suspected was there. And we know, mostly thanks to interviews in fairness, because that's where all the plot essential information is to be found, that the twins are not themselves a virgins. The virgins is on Brendok. The amount of bullshit crammed into this single episode is really quite impressive. It's highly concentrated, weapons grade bullshit. Its capacity to undo every single episode that came before it is remarkable. Already we're threatening the complete destruction of the show's premise, since, as I pointed out in my last video, the entire show only works if you assume that the Jedi Council never asked any questions about the cover-up of events on Brendok, never followed up on the virgins even though they'd sent Trinity's team to investigate that specifically, never analyzed any of the fieldwork the Jedi conducted on Brendok, never tried to pick up the pieces for themselves, never saw the blood tests, never conducted any subsequent test on Occupational Safety and Health Administration, never spotted Tommen's suicidal instability during his trials, never sent any other team to Brendok despite its significance, and never sensed that any of the Jedi involved there were lying to them. It also relies on the cover-up existing in the first place, and as we covered in the last video, the cover-up didn't need to exist in the first place. Not only because almost every one of its components is just the truth, but because the Jedi were pretty much entirely justified in acting as they had, and no sane person could dispute the fact. The reason for the cover-up, as given to us by Trinity in Episode 7, was to protect Occupational Safety and Health Administration's dream, the dream of becoming a Jedi.
I must face the Council.
Why would you do that to her? After everything this little girl has lost tonight, you take away her dream as well?
That won't be the reason given later in this episode, because this show is so forgetful it could be replaced by its own vice president, but running with it for the sake of argument, it still makes no sense, because the Jedi would be much more likely to reject a generic child who is too old to train than they would a special child that's too old to train. The girls being too old to train was, after all, one of the principal reasons given for the Council rejecting Trinity's request to take both twins back to Coruscant in the first place, even though they believed the twins were about to be sacrificed to evil lesbian witch gods under a full moon. I could go on and on and on about this, because we've reached this point by building layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of stupidity, implicating every single character in the known universe. But I'm also keenly aware that the point we've reached is the 4-minute mark of the episode, and there is plenty more to go. So let's simply say that absolutely nothing about any of this makes any sense at all, and move on to the next bit that makes no sense at all.
Proof what? That murdering our mother was justified?
Darling, your mother turned into an evil smoke demon and tried to dissolve you into a fart cloud. She absolutely had it coming. The fact she waited until after she got stabbed to tell Squid Game she wasn't trying to scare him with evil doesn't detract from the point that she turned herself into an actual fucking cloud of evil. Tried to transform you into the Force, and all this after mind-raping poor Tommen in full view of his masters. And all that should have been in the report sent to the Council, because there is literally no reason to omit it from your reports. I'm afraid the mother of the coven died, because she turned into a demon and I stabbed her. Well, Squid Game, I think you did the right thing in the circumstances.
What happened to you, to your coven, was an accident.
If you call being attacked by evil witches and killing them in self-defense an accident, sure. But I can't help thinking this isn't the strongest rebuttal you could or should be offering here, Squid Game. Gee, I really hope this weird ambiguity isn't going to become a point in which the whole show and your entire life revolves. It'd sure be a shame if you got yourself killed because you didn't tell the whole truth, even though that is your motive currently. Though it must be said that kind of stupidity would be par for the course, because I can't help but notice that Squid Game has left Pip in Fannie Mae's pocket, and, well, you know, that's an incredibly dumb thing to do. This show's gone around portraying the Jedi as interstellar policemen, but no sane policeman locks up a minority without checking for weapons first. The New York Times tells me the police don't arrest black people in the first place, they just shoot them to be sure, even if all they've done is go around mostly peacefully assassinating Jedi.
If it was an accident, then why didn't you tell Osha? Why did you lie to her?
Because he's an idiot, Fanny, because he's a big, stupid idiot. And because if he told her the truth, then we wouldn't have had this wonderful, wonderful show. And its wonderful, wonderful climax later in this episode would have been ruined. The lie, by the way, is a lie of omission. Occupational Safety and Health Administration actually knows what should be the most pertinent details. Fanny Mae tried to burn her alive, destroyed Fort Vagina in the process, including all of the witches, who she'd already locked in, meaning they'd probably have burned one way or the other. The bit Squid Game didn't tell her is that he killed Mother Anusai when she turned into a smoke demon and tried to dissolve a child. Although I guess he also didn't tell her that her mother mind-raped Tommen, and her other mother tried to club him to death, and her entire coven tried to murder the Jedi team by mind-fucking a Wookiee. You know, all the objectively bad things that made the Jedi's actions justified. Because if baby Occupational Safety and Health Administration had been told just how justified the Jedi's actions were, she'd not be able to get angry later when Squid Game confesses to killing Mother Anusai, but forgets to add the context.
Why did you blame it on me?
You started that fire. You locked everyone in.
Because the Jedi invaded our home. Everyone in there died because of the four of you.
It was right for us to intervene.
I really do think this needs to be stressed, because the show sure as hell won't hold her accountable for it. Fanny Mae did set the fire. She did try to burn her sister alive. She did lock everyone in. We're going to have to blame her for all this because this show has an entirely perverted conception of morality. It thinks she's in the right, and this episode acts as if she's vindicated throughout. Anyway, remember the trope? Remember the wonderful, wonderful trope where a character, usually Squid Squid Game says, "I have something very important to tell you." Oh, that was a bit Welsh, wasn't it? Fuck it, who cares? Only to get interrupted before he can spill the beans? Episode 4, interrupted by Smilo. Episode 5, interrupted by Fanny. Episode 6, interrupted by credits. Having spent the entire episode not spilling the beans he could have spilled since episode 2 because he got interrupted by suddenly power cuts and shit. Yeah, well, that happens again.
My biggest regret is that I wasn't able to save you both. You and Osha are not twins. You're not even sisters.
Note that Fanny Mae doesn't kill him here. This is because we've reverted back to whichever one of her 14 characters it was who wanted to turn herself into the Jedi Council and reveal secrets to them. She was going killing again all the way up until episode 4, where she decided she wasn't going killing again after all, which is why she didn't kill Squid Game when she stunned him in episode 5, even though she was going to kill him again in episode 6 until she decided she wasn't doing that again. Her initial change of heart was prompted by the revelation in episode 2 that Occupational Safety and Health Administration was still alive, even though she had no reason to suspect that Occupational Safety and Health Administration was dead, and it made no difference to her calculations until she'd walked all the way into the forest on Kofar to kill Kilnaka, who died anyway. Note also that turning herself into the Jedi Council because she has information that could damn Squid Game and the Jedi is a motive she could have acted on in the last 16 years between Brendok and now, but she didn't. For reasons. Note also that this being her motive now breaks everything that follows, every single bit of it, because it means she and Squid Game have been aligned in intent since episode 4, and consciously aligned in intent since episode 6, where Squid Game, thinking she was Occupational Safety and Health Administration, said he would turn himself into the council, even though he'd previously promised to tell her first and he just forgot about that because the writing team switched between episodes and Disney Lucasfilm has affirmatively actioned illiterates to the top of the writers' rooms. They don't read their own scripts. Fanny Mae wants Squid Game to confess to the council. She actually tells us this explicitly later.
I want him to confess what he did. I want him to face the High Council.
Squid Game wants to confess to the council. He told her that 2 episodes ago and he's confirmed it again just now. You know the bit where he specifically said he'd activate the transponder to bring the Jedi to him, even though he turned it off in the last episode to run away from them, but fuck it. So, if Squid Game wants to confess and if Fanny Mae wants him to confess, then why has she just stopped him confessing? And why is she now running away and stealing a ship that doesn't have a hyperdrive in order to lead him down to Brendok, where he said he was going anyway? I am genuinely struggling to convey to you, my beautiful little sluts, how completely fucking ridiculous this episode is. Fanny Mae is currently running away in order to accomplish something she'd have accomplished more easily had she stayed in bed. This is like Han flying back in on the Falcon and shooting Luke down because they both want to blow up the Death Star. It's absurd. How have we got to episode 8, the finale, with our longest serving hero and our longest serving antagonist fighting because they agree with each other? How does a show, the most important thing Leslye has ever created, remember, have so little to say that its goodies and its baddies have the same goals, the same point of view? Basil's still pottering about, and fuck me will he be relevant in a couple of minutes' time, my god. Squid Game makes no attempt to stop Fanny with the Force, even though that's totally a thing he could do, because if it's what he did do, it totally would have worked. Then we get the first of several OT callback.
See you in hell, Jedi.
We'll see you in hell.
Fanny Mae hops on the escape ship. Old Republic ships are like those Russian Matryoshka dolls. Is that how you pronounce Matryoshka? Fuck it, I don't know, I'm not a spy. Crack one open and a smaller one flies out. Gee, just imagine if technology hadn't devolved in the many decades between now and the OT. 3PO and R2 could have piloted a ship away from the Star Destroyer with the plans rather than dropping in an escape pod. Not that it would have made much difference because this ship doesn't have a hyperdrive, which just compounds the pointlessness of this entire sequence. Squid Game wants to take Fanny down to Brendok so he can confess to the Jedi like Fanny wants him to, so she steals a ship that can literally go nowhere else and flies it down to Brendok in order that she can fight and capture him so he can do the thing he would have done anyway had he been left to go there in his own fucking steam. God. Oh, but it does give us this entirely redundant sequence. Isn't it pretty? We've got to spend the big bucks somewhere, I guess.
It's too big to follow us in here.
Oh hey, it's another Empire line.
What are you doing?
not actually going into an asteroid field.
They'd be crazy to follow us, wouldn't they?
Now, yes, Fanny, he would be stupid to follow you in there. He'd be stupid to follow you in there because it's a pretty flat plane of moon dust and a planetary ring, and you're flying a ship that doesn't have a hyperdrive. You cannot escape. And he doesn't need to fly through the ring to follow you. He could just fly above it or below it, literally just a few meters up or a few meters down. Wouldn't even need his windscreen wipers. I think we've established by now that the show doesn't pay attention to things it sets up. But remember how twice episodes have been dictated by sudden problems emerging with this ship? It was all broken for reasons at the beginning of episode 2, which delayed their departure from Iceworld, and it had sudden power cuts in episode 6 whenever the plot needed to trigger or interrupt dialogue. This would be a completely pointless change to make because there is no reason for any of this to be happening in the first place. But you'd think a scene like this would be a good place to pay off those beats. At the very least, if I was Squid Game, I'd not be taking a ship with power problems through a massive cloud of dust and ice and rock. It's the kind of thing liable to jam up your intakes and cause all sorts of problems. Oh, but it's fine. We don't need payoffs. We don't need anything like that because we've got a beaver. Oh, so we're killing her now? Even though her ship doesn't have a hyperdrive? And Squid Game just got done telling us how his entire plan is to use her as proof of the Virgins, and she can't go anywhere else, and so why are you... What? Suddenly beaver. Suddenly fucking beaver. And not in the gay person taking someone home from the club but being too drunk to check first kind of way. I just fucking, God, I can't. I joked about this back in episode 5 when Basil was pottering about maliciously for no discernible purpose. I knew he had an ill-favored look. I said it. Basil. We've cut away to Basil. Fucking Basil is still here for some reason. In fact, Basil's going to be pottering about for the whole episode for no discernible reason. NordVPN decides they should follow Basil, but we'll find out shortly that Basil isn't even going back to the ship yet. So God knows what the plan here is. Or what Basil's plan is even. He is a little bit sus, is Basil. Wouldn't surprise me if he turned out to be the mastermind behind the whole Sith operation. Darth Basil. I cannot believe this is where we are. Basil is not a character. Basil has no wants, no motives, no purpose in this story. I called him a convenience beaver in that episode 5 video. Smilo has seemingly been getting buggered all night, but now the sun's coming up, he finally beats the murder moths and gets Pip off his back. What the fuck are you doing here, Basil? Weren't you heading back to the ship? Why did you pop up here now to pick up Pip? Why would you be running towards Smilo and the murder moths, Basil? Do you want to get buggered as well? Or are you just the writer's convenience beaver now? Conveniently beavering around to set things up for episode 6? Yeah, I think that's exactly what you are, you convenient beaver. But no, Basil is more than a convenience beaver. Basil is Leslie's convenience beaver. He's her beaver. Need an entirely random spanner thrown into your entirely random works? Achieving nothing because it's all fucked anyway? Well, never fear, Basil's here. Leslye just grabs her beaver, says, "Make it so, number 1," and so it is made. This is not a script. This is vaginal discharge of the moldiest variety. Basil the convenience beaver strikes again. Fuck you, Basil. Fuck you. I fucking hate you, Basil. Nobody's ever going to mention it either. Basil won't face any kind of comeuppance or recriminations. Squid Game just accepts that this is what Leslie's beaver demands and he gets on with it. He doesn't say a word to Basil at any point in the entire episode. They land on the planet together. Squid Game just walks off and leaves Basil unattended, even though Basil has just sabotaged his ship and all of his best laid plans. If plans is the word. Actually, no, plans isn't the word. None of this makes any sense. None of it's been thought through, but at least there was more of a plan than suddenly fucking beaver. And you know what? This is just the first of 2 instances where Basil fucks shit up, and it's the least significant of the 2. All that's happened here is that Basil, for no reason, has stopped Squid Game killing Fanny Mae for equivalently no reason, thereby ensuring he'll land on Brendok and follow a chain of events that ensures his own death. It was Basil who picked up Pip in episode 5, even though their only previous encounter saw Pip pissing on Basil, and it's only because Basil picked up Pip that Fanny Mae escaped her chains here and ran off, and it's only only because Basil broke the ship he was on, for fuck's sake. God knows what would have happened if he yanked the life support plug by accident. Anyway, it's only because Basil breaks the ship that Squid Game ends up alone in Fort Vagina with Mae still alive. So it's only because of Basil that Squid Game ends up dying. And yes, I wasn't shitting you. Basil ensuring the death of the only character in this entire show that people kind of like is not the worst thing Basil does in this episode. We will reach the end of the show, and Basil will be well placed to bring down the entire Jedi Order. And no, that is not an exaggeration. He really is that broken. He doesn't have arms, you fuck. He's a droid. He's plugged in. He can't fucking brace himself. Also, why the hell do you care, Fanny? You've got no history with him. He was Occupational Safety and Health Administration's droid until you mind wiped him. And you're not her, no matter how many times the show tells us you're the same person. So Fanny Mae crash lands on Brendok, where she was going anyway, because that entire sequence was expensive, nonsensical filler bollocks. And then we hop away to Coruscant. Hey morons, look at the title card. It's Coruscant, you chuckle f***. You might not have recognized it because we still couldn't be bothered to add the traffic. Green Bean is back here for two reasons: to continue the show's passionate vendetta against the very idea of time, and to set up some political intrigue in a bid to justify a second season. Both of these are shit reasons, but hey, at least we get to laugh at dairy-free vegan dick again. Take it away, Mog, you lettuce-munching fuck.
Senator Raincourt's here to see you.
Where is he?
He's in there.
You let him in the control room?
Leaving aside that I have absolutely no idea what a control room is in the context of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and why it functions as Green Bean's private office when her whole shtick is operating independently, here we meet Senator Raincourt. Raincourt got his first indirect mention as far back as Episode 1, and his first direct mention in Episode 2, which had it that he led an expansionist faction in the Senate while also, and unrelatedly one presumes, pushing for an external audit of the Jedi Order. In earlier videos, I went on at some length about the potentially massive world-building problems presented by this guy and his campaign for Senate oversight. I won't repeat the whole thing here because it's long, and the last time I explained it, I ended up giving a brief history of the Praetorian Guard from the late Roman Republic to Emperor Constantine the Great. The short-form version is that not only must Raincourt's campaign ultimately fail, but he has to leave the Jedi immune to any subsequent attempts and outside the jurisdiction of the Senate. Because if the show doesn't do that, then the Acolyte will preemptively render Palpatine's entire campaign against the Jedi both silly and redundant, and it was already quite silly. After all, for Raincourt's present campaign to work constitutionally, it entails that the Senate is superior to the Jedi Order and has the power to impose upon it, which breaks all sorts of canon, even that established by Filoni in his Clone Wars show. The Acolyte Season 1 does not fix the problem it is here needlessly created, but that's because it never really intended to close out this arc. I've been saying for a while now that the show has been written with a second season in mind, and this storyline is one of the most overt examples of sequel bait in the show. Leslye has knowingly introduced a threat to the Jedi Order, not realizing that in Basil the Convenience Beaver, she's already got a mortal threat to the Jedi Order. And by waiting until Episode 8 to even begin having this intersect with the A-plot, she's created what she thinks is a pitch for Season 2. After all, as she's fond of saying in interviews, if she gets to continue telling this story, she already knows where it wants to go, and it will be complicated and messy, unlike the Acolyte Season 1, which is complicated and messy. There's nothing wrong with teasing second season stories, and indeed you want through lines across your show if the plan is for it to run over multiple installments. But the history of the Acolyte is largely one of intriguing premises wrecked in delivery, and Senator Raincourt arrives here like a UPS van drunk-driven through a nursery.
Apologies for my intrusion.
Not at all.
I was surprised when they said you were traveling through hyperspace. How is your stomach?
It's my head, actually. This must be urgent to wait for me here.
I've heard some disturbing things. That you are running a murder investigation without reporting it to the Senate.
So yeah, the UPS van has gone crashing through the nursery, scattering small children like bowling pins. I believe this is actually a sport in America, and the driver has drunkenly flopped out of the cab, dropped the parcel on the floor, and thrown up on it for good measure. This show has always struggled with the knowledge problem. Its attempt to maintain the integrity of the prequels, where the Jedi believe the Sith have been extinct for a millennia, first saw Master Greenbean insist on keeping absolutely everything under wraps.
If it were to become public that a former Jedi killed one of our own,
Our political enemies could use it against us.
This was broken in all manner of ways from the off. The presumption that informing the High Council entailed informing the Senate is actually undercut by the prequels, where the High Council itself withholds things from the Senate.
If informed the Senate is, multiply, our adversaries will.
It also requires us to believe that Yoda, who is so attuned to the Force he could sense the deaths of fucking sand people on Tatooine from his comfy chair on Coruscant, was entirely ignorant of the deaths of first 1, then 2, then 3, then a dozen Jedi, while also requiring that we believe none of the Jedi witnesses on Olega ever told anyone their master had been assassinated, so the information never found its way to the High Council by any other means, while also requiring that we believe Master Greenbean's privileges as an independent actor allow her to control entire teams of Jedi from the temple on Coruscant, without anyone ever asking where she'd sent them or why none of them came back from Kofar, while also requiring that we believe Ki-Adi-Mundi, who really was introduced for a pointlessly destructive cameo, he'll never come up again, never told anyone else in the temple about the targeted assassination of 4 Jedi Masters. All this and more must be true to keep the Jedi Council ignorant in order, or so we presumed, to keep the involvement of the Sith a secret from the Council, and so secret from the Senate. But oh boy, we'll be coming back to that presumption at the end. For now, here's Senator Rayencourt, who has somehow found out about the murder investigation regardless. This means that the person against whom Greenbean specifically conspired knows more than the actual Jedi High Council against whom she only instrumentally conspired. At no point, by the way, will we ever learn how Rayencourt became aware of it. Maybe we'll find out it was Mog in Season 2, the fucking treacherous vegan. Or maybe, and much more likely, Rayencourt knows about it because he read the script. That's usually how these things work in the Acolyte. This means at least 3 things. In the first place, there is now no reason at all for Greenbean not to inform the High Council. So of course she won't inform the High Council until the very end, after it's all too late. In the second place, there's pretty much no reason why the High Council itself shouldn't have heard about all this anyway, since Rayencourt was able to find out about it on his lonesome. And in the third place, we are expected to believe that Senator Rayencourt, who is supposed to be marshalling an entire faction of the Senate against the Jedi Order, has chosen to come here for a private chat with Greenbean, rather than immediately using this knowledge to push for a public investigation, thereby catching the Jedi Order off guard and maximally damaging its reputation. He gains nothing by taking this private approach. This approach actually counteracts what meager characterization he's had hitherto, as something of a populist, a manipulator, and the show has only opted for this private exchange because it wants an excuse to address the audience directly with exposition. Hooray, more exposition. I do love me some exposition.
I'm keeping this internal for the moment. I have the authority to take independent action if there's no larger threat.
How can you know there is no larger threat?
All the victims were Jedi.
There are multiple victims?
Fucking hell, Greenbean. He just Columboed you. You got Columboed. Careless talk costs lives, Greenbean. It's very hard to believe you're some savvy, secretive political operator when fucking intergalactic Columbo makes you crack at the first attempt. Why would you even offer up this information in response to that question? Oh, it's fine. There's no larger threat because actually lots of people died, so there's nothing to worry about. Honestly, with answers like that, you should be considering a new career heading the US Secret Service.
I am very close to apprehending the suspect.
Is the suspect a Jedi?
Very close. Thank you for your concern.
It's a bit late to be coy now, you mangled cabbage. This is another situation where you really should have lied. And by lied, I mean you really should have told the truth. No, the suspect isn't a Jedi. But the show needs ambiguity on this point because it's going to proceed on the entirely unearned assumption that Squid Game is a genuine and believable suspect in these murders. It came up at the end of episode 6 where Mog mogged his way to this fanciful conclusion.
You don't think Master Sol was responsible?
I pointed out at the time that this was a wild theory that no Jedi in Vegemite Soyowan's position should even contemplate. I wondered at the time whether this was there because the show was about to force something tragic. It's also a theory that's easily disproven. Squid Game was on Coruscant when Trinity was murdered, wasn't on Olega when Fannie Mae first tried to assassinate Tommen, and was literally being escorted by Jedi Knights while Tommen was murdered. He has all of the alibis, and this is going to be staggeringly relevant later, so keep it in mind. We are very much not done with it yet. For now, though, it's time for that delicious, tender exposition. Take it away, Big Ray.
You don't like me.
You think my campaign for an external review of the Jedi is a personal vendetta?
If you want my honest opinion, yes.
For it to be a personal vendetta, he would have to know you personally, Green Bean, and you would have to be a person, not a green prop. Rayancourt would have to be orchestrating his campaign against the Jedi to get at you, meaning his campaign against the Jedi would be a front, an instrument of vengeance against you, specifically Green Bean. That is what a personal vendetta means. But we get very little sense that these two have ever met personally before. His campaign against the Jedi reads much more as a genuine attack against the Jedi and their place in the Republic, not a personal vendetta against a single Jedi, which Green Bean would know if these two actually had any history to speak of. If they knew each other well enough for him to develop a personal vendetta, then pretty much none of the following exposition would be necessary.
Good. Here's mine. I think the Jedi are a massive system of unchecked power, posing as a religion, a delusional cult that claims to control the uncontrollable.
We don't control the Force.
Not the Force. Your emotions.
Leaving aside that the Jedi do kind of control the Force after a fashion, because they can command it. Listen, here's Obi-Wan saying exactly that in A New Hope.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him.
You mean it controls your actions?
Partially, but it also obeys your commands.
Leaving that aside, you'd think the Force would be much less controllable than emotions. Everyone has emotions, unless they're in the Ahsoka show, because Dave kind of forgot to add them to his characters. Senators have emotions. Of all the things Rayancourt could complain about, all the things he has just started complaining about, the Jedi being a bit more emotionally unstable than they present as being would be pretty low down on my list. A clique of monks barely accountable to the polis intervening in the political affairs of the Republic, claiming a monopoly on Force use and the exclusive right to take and train any child who demonstrates Force sensitivity. You're talking to a child-snatching political priest, and your complaint is that she might be a bit uppity from time to time? Well, fuck me, that's definitely worth investigating. I demand an inquiry into the crimes of Leslye Headland.
You project an image of goodness and restraint, but it's only a matter of time before one of you snaps. And when, not if that happens, who will be strong enough to stop him?
Well, thank you for explaining the theme to us, Senator. That was very helpful. Nice of you to stop by to lecture Green Bean about it, rather than acting off that assumption in a bid to stop this perceived abuse. I think a large part of the problem here is that the Acolyte is the Acolyte, and so everything about it is shit. But getting a bit more granular, because it is my job, and unlike Leslye, I think I ought to do my job properly, this has all been foregrounded far too late for it to really work as a thematic element, much less a plotline. Its function as a plotline requires several layers be baked into the big old cake of stupidity, as we've already discussed. The Council being implausibly unaware of events all the way through. Meanwhile, the one guy they once mentioned they want to keep it a secret from has at this late hour learned everything he needs to learn to confirm his political priors. I guess this does make it a fairly accurate depiction of a politician, but it doesn't make for a particularly satisfying story because it's barely a story to begin with. The show has treated it like an afterthought, which is why it's had precisely 2 brief and offhand mentions in the 7 episodes prior and been brought to the fore in the final episode in the form of a massive info dump. Green Bean saying, hey, we'd probably better keep it all hush-hush in episode 1, only then to show characters very much failing to keep it hush-hush, but then never actually showing any malicious investigation hounding Green Bean, only to have Rayancourt pop up now and say, oh, by the way, I know about it all and I fucking hate you because theme is bad storytelling. I think it would always have been tricky to fit into the show because the show is already juggling a murder mystery, a Sith origin story that occasionally connects to the murder mystery, an unraveling of history, a botched thematic critique of the Jedi, and a nominally personal family tragedy storyline. The Acolyte has many more elements than it really knows what to do with. It's like watching a drunk clown spinning plates. But if you were to make it a fundamental aspect of the show, as opposed to a mere afterthought, what you really needed was for it to form a consistent B-plot with more interplay between Green Bean as representative of the Jedi Order on the macro level, and Rayancourt as representative of the macro critique of that order. Let's say Fanny Mae in assassinating Trinity had also killed some top-ranking Republic diplomat as collateral damage. A jurisdictional conflict between Jedi and Senate would have kicked off at the moment the investigation began, with Green Bean claiming independent authority, setting up the thematic critique of the Jedi as an unaccountable and extra-political group interfering in civic affairs, confirming Rayancourt's prior suspicions of them. Green Bean would be forced to rush rush Squid Game along in his investigation, her pressure might almost lead to the wrongful conviction of Occupational Safety and Health Administration, because the Republic's own investigation is only minutes behind it and is being steered by Rayancourt, who is a political opponent, who seems more bent on uncovering the Jedi's dirty secrets than the actual truth of the plot, showing Green being hounded by the civic authorities, pressuring Squid Game to go further and faster, rebuffing requests for testimony, and generally trying to protect the independence of the Jedi would establish a ticking clock, as well as making the theme run through the entire series. And if the goal is to make a true critique of the Jedi, then even a successful cover-up by the Jedi would prove to the audience that Rayancourt had a point. This is a body more concerned with its own purity and reputation than with truth and with justice, one too long removed from accountability to recognize its own institutional rot. That's how I would have gone about it, but what do I know? I am not paid the big bucks.
That's certainly an opinion, and not one shared by the rest of the Senate.
The majority of my colleagues can't imagine a galaxy without the Jedi. When you're looking up to heroes, you don't have to face what's right in front of you. I have reported your lack of transparency to Chancellor Drellick. He may invite you to a Senate tribunal for an update. I hope for your sake you have this suspect in custody by then.
I'll point out again, as I did reviewing, I think episode 6, that the world building here is confused. Either the problem with the Jedi is that they are unaccountable, or the Jedi are at risk because they are accountable to the Senate and the Supreme Chancellor. They are not accountable in the prequel era, which is how Creamy Sheev propagated his ruse about them trying to take over. This was the reason for the Praetorian Guard tangent in my earlier video. I think I was right in saying that Ahsoka Tano would have had to be exiled from the Jedi Order in order to face a Republic tribunal, because the two jurisdictions do not overlap. And if the goal was not telling the High Council in order to hide information from the Senate, then the fact the Senate now knows, the Supreme Chancellor knows no less, makes keeping the Council ignorant a pointless game. Rayancourt now has everything he needs to prosecute a campaign in the Senate proper, and if he's got the Supreme Chancellor on side, then motions to instigate an external audit should already be in play. Our only previous mention of him had it that he was manipulating people with fear and emotions. The strong implication was that he was a political populist. Yet here he's simply exploiting exclusive and private backroom access to keep all this under wraps, even though that goes entirely against every motive he's been shown having. We will deal with the thoroughly and disgustingly corrupt way Greenbean handles all this later in the video. For now, my guess remains that this is principally here to tease that second season storyline, which is going to make things very awkward if the Acolyte doesn't get that second season. We'll leave this show with the Jedi Order in a position, via the Senate, that pretty much precludes events as they unfold in the prequels, which is exactly the kind of carelessness we've come to expect from Disney Star Wars.
Good luck. Now, what is it you say? May the Force be with you.
Ooh, what a bitch. Anyway, we hop away to planet probably Baldemnik. Look at the cutesy little penis birds there. Better hope there's no old hobos around here, otherwise they're gonna milk you.
So you're really not going to tell me where we're going?
We go together or we don't go at all. That seems fair.
Did I give you the impression that I was a fair person?
Yes, you did.
Hey, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, remember how in the last episode you briefly complained that Jackie and Yord were dead? Do you perchance remember how they died? Yeah, see, if you actually had a character, you might still be a little bit cut up about all that. Hell, in episode 6, Smilo attempted to play on your attachment to Jackie in particular.
You would have had the same relationship with her that you have with your master. Why do you love people who can only go so far, who can't go as deep as you can?
It's a sign of how unbelievably shallow Occupational Safety and Health Administration's characterization is. The nominal protagonist, remember, that this scene can happen at all. I've covered extensively in previous videos how Occupational Safety and Health Administration has had next to no agency in driving the plot. Dragged to a prison ship, crashes on an ice planet, then gets knocked out, then is dragged up a cliff, then taken to Olega, then taken to Coruscant, then taken to Kofa, then knocked out, then chased around by Smilo, then knocked out again, then taken to probably Baldemnik, then trapped by Smilo, etc. I've specifically pointed out that denying her any agency at all has prevented the writers establishing her wants and her motives, two things you ideally want to see in your protagonist. This scene here might well be the very first time in the entire show that Occupational Safety and Health Administration actually takes the initiative, and even that resulted from her having a force seizure inside Smilo's helmet, and it's only because she's gone through 8 episodes without forming a character that the writers have the freedom to do what they do in this episode. Nothing is out of character for Occupational Safety and Health Administration. She doesn't have a character to be in. She trusts the Jedi, then she runs from the Jedi, then she's angry about her sister, then she doesn't give a shit about her sister, then she's truly madly deeply in love with Jackie, then she doesn't give a shit about Jackie, then she's almost murdered by Smilo, then she doesn't give a shit about almost being murdered by Smilo because she sees his dick. Now she thinks he's basically good people. Fuck it, I'm gonna play this again for emphasis.
Did I give you the impression that I was a fair person?
Yes, you did. You made a deal with my sister, and you expected her to uphold it. That's fair.
No, you daft bint. And let's also keep in mind that you have no idea what Smilo's arrangement with Fannie Mae actually was. If you did, you'd not be able to say it seems fair, because the whole point of it was that it didn't seem fair. Smilo entered into the arrangement without telling Fannie Mae what he really wanted her to do. He became disillusioned with her when she didn't do the thing he never told her he wanted her to do. Their agreement was to complete a task, kill a Jedi without a weapon, that had no practical definition, and she ended up abandoning the quest in the middle of the Kofar jungle because killing a Wookiee Jedi unarmed was an all but impossible ask. And having raised and trained Fannie Mae for an indeterminate number of the 16 years since we left Brendok, this is never answered by the way, we have no idea how long they were really together, Smilo decided he'd murder her because she'd had doubts about the mission he'd sent her on. What about that is fair? Why would you assume the guy who did all of that in a bid to murder Jedi for no other reason than that they are Jedi, and who we've seen to win in combat situations by a combination of mind rape and rule breaking, why would you assume this fucker is fair? Oh, but she wants to suck on his Smilo, so I guess it's all fine. Women, always thinking with their vajayjay.
You should be trained. Would you ever consider?
How about you take your clothes off again and then I'll consider.
No.
Good, more for me.
Last chance.
Dump the bitch! Dump her! Do it!
Told you, I'm not my sister.
You're definitely not. May made that deal without even thinking about it.
Leaving aside that we don't actually know what the deal really is, the rest of this is just a lie. This is not her last chance, and Smilo doesn't believe it's her last chance, because if it were her last chance, he could just kill her the minute he finds out where they're going, even though he should already know where they're going. And per the rules of the show, she literally is her sister somehow, even though they're completely different people with different thoughts and mannerisms and behaviors and experiences and memories, and even though the show never even tries to explain what it actually means in practice, probably because they have no idea what it means in practice. The ship flies off and oh, who's this creepy little goober creepily goobering inside that cave? Oh boy, did you ever hear of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Darth Plagueis was a Dark Lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise, he got his own novel and everything. He became so popular, the only thing he was really afraid of was being stuck in a shitty Disney Star Wars show, which eventually of course he was. Unfortunately, Disney stuck his actual backstory in Legends, and then he was given a cameo in The Acolyte to please sheep. This is such a fucking low move. What's he been doing there? How long's he been there? How did she not spot him when she woke up in the cave? Has he been there the whole time? Has he been spying on a naked Smilo? How did Fannie Mae never meet him even though she spent years in the cave? But that's just all the minor present tense nonsensical stuff. On a deeper level, it really amounts to a kind of theft. Those in charge of Disney Star Wars deliberately chucked out decades of popular expanded universe material in order that they have the freedom to tell whatever stories they liked. But because so much of the EU was popular and well known, and because so many of their stories were shit, Disney Lucasfilm has famously been lifting more and more of it out of Legends and into canon, but obviously without any of the actual story material associated with them, then they might have to give credit and pay royalties, the cheap This came up in an earlier video too, inevitably, with reference to Ki-Adi-Mundi and the impossibility of year-zeroing established universes. Mundi's was an equivalently pointless cameo, doing equivalently casual damage to the broader Star Wars universe. There's even a similar age-related problem. Ki-Adi-Mundi wasn't even canonically born at the time of his Episode 2 cameo until Wikipedia managed to memory hole it. Plagueis, for his part, would be a teenager at the time the Acolyte is set, I think around 15 years old, according to what was once his detailed and fleshed out storyline. This fucking decrepit gremlin doesn't look like a teenager to me, but Plagueis does significantly more high-level damage than Mundi, precisely because of how pivotally enmeshed he was in the accepted Star Wars story. The one that most people still assume is operative unless they're told otherwise, because that's how expanded universes work. I made this point several times in my Episode 2 video. It's one thing to tell everyone that you've retconned everything, that you've shoved the entire EU into Legends, but if you're going to keep relying on on things that are contingent upon the EU, then like Wikipedia, you are required to assume much of the retcon material remains functionally canon. The vanishingly few and unfailingly defenders of this show will say that none of this matters because none of it is canon. Probably the most consequential bit of shilling imaginable, since that argument is designed to prohibit criticism of any decision made about canon. In no other realm is this sort of defense accepted. In form, it's a bit like ripping one page out of, the Bible, burning the rest of the Bible, shoddily cobbling together some incredibly cringe new piece of fan fiction to serve as a prequel to the one page you kept, then criticizing toxic Christians who point out that Noah wasn't actually a lesbian with a power glove. But oh, none of the old stuff is canon, so it's fine that he's a lesbian with a power glove now. Yeah, well, most people who've been with the Christ Wars expanded universe for decades would beg to differ, and you vandalizing the canon like a drunk Visigoth in Rome entails infinitely more destruction than it does creation. There is an old principle known as Chesterton's fence. The principle holds that old and established things should not be changed unless their purpose and their reason for existing is first well understood. G.K. Chesterton himself laid it out as follows. In the matter of reforming things, as distinct from deforming them, there is one plain and simple principle, a principle which will probably be called a paradox. There exists in such a case a certain institution or law, let us say, for the sake of simplicity, a fence or a gate erected across a road. The more modern type of reformer goes gaily up to it and says, I don't like the use of this, let's clear it away. To which the more intelligent type of reformer will do well to answer, if you don't see the use of it, I certainly won't let you clear it away. Go away and think. Then, when you can come back and tell me that you do see the use of it, I may allow you to destroy it. This is an unfashionable principle because it gives deference to the past and, controversially, holds that it's worth understanding old things before you set about destroying them. Its unpopular warning is that you do not know better just because you happen to be modern. And because this is a fusty and conservative principle that, if followed, forces young people to study things like history, adherence to it basically disqualifies you from participating in modern entertainment. Fandom, by contrast, operates on this principle almost by definition. It's one of O'Sullivan's laws. Everybody is conservative about that they know best, which is why fans must be deemed toxic. And on the rare occasion an actor vouches support for the principle, say by encouraging respect for the source material, they're condemned as difficult to work with. Oh, hey Henry Cavill. The much more fashionable and popular principle in modern entertainment is that old things are bad by definition and they have to be changed or updated to be considered basically moral. See the Ziegler creature complaining about Snow White being old, or the Rings of Power freaks claiming to tell a story Tolkien never could, while insisting that minorities could never relate to Lord of the Rings because the hobbits didn't have the racial diversity of inner city Chicago. What none of these cultural barbarians ever admits is that the only reason Snow White or Lord of the Rings or now Star Wars has been selected for revision is that it was popular enough to be noticed in the first place. And popular in the first place because of its old-fashioned and timeless values and qualities. These properties have remained so strong because the fandom has kept Chesterton's fence erect. To put it strictly in the context of The Acolyte, if you're one of those people who, even accepting Disney's mass retconning, doesn't want to see known commodities like Plagueis randomly plucked from the netherworld of legends unless accompanied by the stories that made him popular to begin with, you are Chesterton defending his fence. Here is an older thing, an older character who was popular. He was popular for a reason. He sits within a context people spend quite a long time working out, and it's Darth Plagueis the unwise to pull him out of that context without sufficient regard for why and how that context functioned. You will never be able to replace it with something better if you don't first understand what made the old thing good. It's not that Disney Lucasfilm cannot possibly do good things with Plagueis, it's that good things had already been done with Plagueis, and that's why he's popular. While a cursory glance at the record of his new stewards suggests that they are completely incapable of replicating that quality. Cameos like this annoy people because they contain an inherent hypocrisy. Oh, that legend stuff, that doesn't matter enough to be canon, but also, that legend stuff matters so much we have to keep stealing from it. They annoy people because they all but preclude the possibility that the old stories will ever come back. You cannot, for example, have Timothy Zahn's popular version of Admiral Thrawn because Disney has given us the dumb retarded Smurf rendition of Thrawn and these stories are mutually exclusive. By the same token, the Plagueis who came up under Darth Tenebrous and pioneered research into Force Vergences and midichlorian manipulation is highly unlikely to be the same Plagueis who was inspired to create a Force Jesus by observing lesbian space space witches who'd already done it. And it annoys people because, consequently, we are forced to watch a hollowed-out husk of a character who's being exploited for popularity these writers never earned and could never earn even if they tried. The only people defending schlock like this are those who neither cared for nor understood the characters now getting their cameos. They're the equivalent of the brain-dead, feelies-addicted children who see lots of pretty lights whirling around and conclude that the Acolyte has the best choreography of all time. They are not, put bluntly, serious people. And a franchise that only appeals to unserious people is necessarily doomed to die. Because unlike the serious fans who kept the Star Wars universe alive and in good shape in the nearly 2 decades between Return of the Jedi and The Phantom Menace, unserious people can't keep anything alive for more than a couple of months. This time next year, I'd not be surprised if almost everyone had forgotten that Plagueis featured in The Acolytes, and as sad as that is, it might still be the best possible outcome. Thrillingly, we continue, jumping away to Fort Vagina on Brendok, where Squid Game turns on the transponder that he should never have turned off in the first place in order to bring the Jedi to him, even though they were already coming to him before he turned it off. But fuck it, we've got to get to Brendok somehow, and this'll do, I guess. Basil suffers the square root of 0 comeuppance for sabotaging the ship. Squid Game doesn't even acknowledge his presence, just trudges off toward Fort Vagina, leaving Basil behind on the ship. The expression, "what the fuck," is often overused, but not in the context of The Acolyte. I could probably save myself an awful lot of work had I just played each scene of The Acolyte, followed by the words "what the fuck" in various funny voices, and accomplished pretty much everything I've accomplished with all these videos. And it still wouldn't constitute overuse in this context. There is no sufficient amount of "what the fuck" that can encapsulate The Acolyte. So, speaking of that previous "what the fuck" moment, Basil sabotaging the ship for no fucking reason, Leslye addressed it in an interview with Collider. That interview is absolutely mind-blowing, and we'll be coming back to it later. Leslye sympathizing with Smilo because she's a gay woman. Bleeding lightsabers being like looking inside a penis. No, I'm not making this up. The victory of outright evil being hailed as a victory over banal patriarchy. No, I'm still not making this up. Leslye has given an uncommonly large number of uncommonly frank interviews about this show, and not since Freud have we had such a good look at such a perverted mind. We'll be coming back to those subjects in a little while. Of Basil, though, question. Speaking of playing both sides, I'm curious. Why did Basil sabotage the ship? Was it because Sol was getting ready to maybe shoot down Mae's ship or do something? And he was like, "Hey, I know I was supposed to track this girl down, but I don't think we should kill her?" Leslye. I think he's kind of like, what is going on with this guy? I love Basil. I wanted to give him a hero moment. I wanted Sol to be completely on edge. I think that Basil has witnessed the handcuffing, you know what I mean, because he's hiding in the ship. We don't cut to him because that would slow down this very important scene between 2 of the main characters, but I kind of liked the idea that he came in and was like, "What's going on in here?" And quote. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much the entirety of the explanation. You'll note, I'm sure, that nowhere in that smorgasbord of half-baked thoughts is anything approaching an answer. Basil's hero moment, which leads directly to the death of the show's one likable character and the ultimate triumph of evil, came about because Basil thought, "What's going on in here?" and decided to yank wires out of the wall, which doesn't in any way add up. Oh, this woman should never be allowed near a writer's room ever again, for fuck's sake. Squid Game seemingly uses the Force to sense Fannie Mae's general location, even though his eyes could have told him she's obviously in that massive vagina fortress right over there. But he'll forget he has that power in a couple of minutes, because if he remembered, he would probably have lived, so it goes with the Acolyte. Then we jump back to Coruscant, where we rejoin Greenbean.
No, he is, but I need to get a message to him. It's urgent.
This is highly unorthodox, but I shall see what I can do.
This bit is entirely confusing because it doesn't really lead anywhere. We never learn who she's trying to contact or why. It can't be Squid Game because she doesn't yet know his transponder's been reactivated. Gay Brit cabbage fucker is just about to tell her that. It can't be Yoda either because, as we will tragically see later, she could just walk upstairs to chat to him, and indeed that's exactly what she should have done already, but hasn't for unaccountable reasons. My only other guess is that it maybe was the friendly senator she was speaking to in episode 2, but it doesn't come up again, so fuck it, who cares?
We found Master Sol. He's turned his transponder beacon back on.
Where is he?
Brendok.
Gather as many knights as you can without raising alarm.
You anticipate a confrontation?
resolution.
Has no one noticed that the last dozen Jedi you sent on a mission died? Does nobody check these things? They can't just lose track of people. This is the Jedi Order, not the Southern Border. And why the secrecy now? Senator Rayencourt already knows what's happening, and he Columboed you into revealing how serious it is. He's already told the Supreme Chancellor. Why haven't you told the High Council? Surely, the best way to save face is to send a massive team, officially, including powerful masters, to achieve this resolution you say you'll get but won't because you're an idiot, in the quickest, most efficient, and most publicly reassuring of ways. You can trust us to self-regulate because look how seriously we take even a minor indiscretion. Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Smilo, meanwhile, arrive on Brendok, and Squid Game sees them coming. Even though he has a special connection to Occupational Safety and Health Administration and has never given much of a shit about Fanny Mae, only winding up with her by accident, he decides he'd rather carry on looking for Fanny rather than heading to the obviously evil ship that he stupidly forgot to impound on Olega, even though this means he'll in effect be turning his back on a powerful Sith Lord and his own favored apprentice. And that's even assuming that he's assuming that Occupational Safety and Health Administration is still alive, which he is assuming, even though one of the last things Smilo said to him was that he was going to kill everyone who saw his face. But since none of the characters in this show thinks thoughts about anything, it's pointless us trying to do it for them. Even though he's a Jedi, and he has the Force, and he has a special connection to Occupational Safety and Health Administration, who is supposed to be the same person as Fanny Mae, meaning he should also have a special connection to Fanny Mae, but fuck it, he doesn't. Squid Game decides he'd rather have a bit of a shout. Hey! Hey! Then he goes womb raiding into the dark and murky depths of the vagina while remembering the first time he penetrated it. How young and tight and well put together it was back then. Now it is an old vagina full of dust and rubble and the ghosts of many people who died inside it long years ago. Outside, Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Smilo arrive at the narrow bottom entrance to the vagina, but they find it blocked. They need to get access to the platform elevator. Yep, this euphemism is quite stretched now, much like a vagina. And you might be wondering just how Squid Game and Fanny Mae got all the way to the top of the vagina if the lift was broken. Did they climb? But surely they couldn't have climbed because they didn't have time. But you see, Squid Game is an old and inexperienced hand, and he knows all about the special spot at the top of the vagina. He's scrabbled up its scaly exterior once before, and Fanny Mae was once raised by lesbians, so I guess she knows her way around a labia as well. Maybe they can climb it really quickly. You might further be wondering how on earth a platform elevator would still be functioning 16 years after the entire vagina blew up from the inside. Don't elevators normally have signs telling you not to use them in the event of an emergency? And anyway, if you can just hack your way inside, much as the Jedi hacked their way inside the first time in episodes 3 and 7, then what was the point of Fanny Mae smashing the control panel at the top? Was that maybe just an incredibly lazy way of splitting characters up that the show has now forgotten about because it's no longer necessary? Yeah, I think that's the answer.
Getting this elevator operational is the only way in, unless you want to climb.
Are you sure?
Where is he?
Oh, he's fucking Batman again. Back when I first watched this episode and was naively still expecting it to tie Smilo into the backstory on Brendok, I thought, aha, well now we know the lesbian space witches can transform into fart clouds and drift away. That must be how Smilo manages it too. This has all been a clue pointing toward his origin. He does have something to do with the witches, but no, it isn't, and no, he doesn't. Once again, in attempting to predict the show by treating it as though it has a mind to set up and pay off, cause and effect, I applied standards by which it does not abide. Smilo doesn't have fart travel. Smilo just Batmans in and out of scenes because it's what the script thinks is cool. There's no link whatsoever between him and the witches. He has no ties to the backstory whatsoever. Isn't that nice? So much to invest in. Squid Game trudges through the vaginal wreck, reminiscing about all those witches the show thinks were victims, even though they were the thesaurus entry underneath the expression fuck around and find out. And he comes upon the bridge he pointlessly tried to lift with the Force when he should have just grabbed the girls who were standing on it. The camera helpfully pans out as he enters this cavern, so I can invite you to notice who's not clinging to the wall beneath his vantage point. I can invite you to notice that, so you'll also notice how dumb it is when Fanny Mae does a Kylo Ren out of the depths tribute act the minute Squid Game turns his back. You will, I'm sure, have noted as well that despite being mere feet apart, and even though he's already done it once in this episode from greater distances, Squid Game completely fails to feel Fanny through the Force. Mind you, after his last experience, I'd not blame him being put off Fanny for life in their bewitches. It's not entirely clear what Fanny's plan is at the moment, so nothing's changed there. She wanders into what I think is the bedroom in which she tried to burn her sister alive, like the hero she is. Meanwhile, that sister does indeed succeed in hacking the platform elevator, which should be broken from the explosions and which should be inaccessible at the top anyway, because Fanny smashed the control panel, but it's not, because, fuck. Using Batman logic, Smilo is already inside Fort Vagina and he confronts Squid Game.
Thank you for leading me to her. We make a great team.
I don't think any of that's really true, but it also doesn't really matter because it's time for a fight. A fight that really shouldn't last as long as it does, and for a few reasons. First, Smilo completely forgets that his Cortosis helmet shorts out lightsabers, so he doesn't bother using it. And he's forgotten to even wear his little Cortosis wristband that does the same thing, so even though he could win it pretty much instantly, he doesn't. Second, Smilo has completely forgotten how to use the mega force push with which he shoved us into the end credits of episode 5, so he doesn't ever use that again, even though if he did, he'd win pretty much instantly. In the third place, Squid Game is shown using a not dissimilar trick later in this very fight, but he doesn't use it yet because if he did, he'd win pretty much instantly. I do love me some variable power levels. It really kills all the tension in a scene. Makes for a terrible show, but at least you're less likely to die of heart disease. Gotta keep that blood pressure down. Best watch The Acolyte. There is precisely one bit of the fight that almost threatens to be good. This bit, where Squid Game is shoved down a hallway and Smilo advances on him. For all of 3 seconds, this seems like the sort of sensible staging that made Vader seem so relentless in Empire Strikes Back. It's an overlooked aspect of choreography and set design, but Luke facing Vader within the confines of a dark hallway with its concave roof aids Vader's sense of terror and inevitability. He is inescapable, he is unavoidable, he seems bigger than his already large frame because the setting enlarges him, turns him from mere combatant into force of nature. These 3 seconds of The Acolyte almost achieve something similar, but because nobody involved in the show actually pays attention to their craft, they do it unwittingly. And because they do it unwittingly, they immediately take the fight back into the light and comparatively open spaces of the outside, thus completely spurning the chance to make the environment aid Smilo's presence. That's how you do better choreography than the prequels, folks. It's how you do the best choreography of all time. You just wave glow sticks around and pay no attention to anything else. And then, and then we get this. Fuck me. And you know, don't you? You know what the line will be. Why are you criticizing this? Don't you know Lucas took inspiration from martial arts films? It's the same thing when Filoni decides Japanese is an integral part of galactic basics, so calls Ahsoka Tano a Ronin, and other equivalent outbreaks of cringe. It's futile trying to explain to these people that there is a difference between inspiration and derivation, or even between derivation and outright plagiarism, because they genuinely don't care. You're meant to look up briefly from your smartphone, go, ooh, and then go back to whatever asinine timeline you live on. The goal of innovation, which is what Lucas did so successfully in the original trilogy and even in the prequels, is to create something that in its new combination coheres and takes on new form. It's why, for all its well-known inspirations, the Star Wars aesthetic was sui generis, unique and unmistakable. That is not what's happening here. Here they're just doing The Matrix for no other reason than that they thought it would be cool to just do The Matrix. There's no stylistic synergy, no real artistic vision. It's just something they saw and thought it looked cool, so wouldn't it be fun if we put bullet time in Star Wars? And my god, it's full of cringe.
I will destroy you if I must.
He's a Sith, you must. But then you knew that in episode 5 and you had the chance, but you stopped, even though he was in control of the twin and the other twin and was too dangerous to be left alive. Needless to say, we are fast approaching Squid Game's end. And yes, as I've said before, he is the only halfway likable character in the entire show. But now is probably the time, given it's the last time we have, to point out that he's also a complete fucking moron, and really, he at least partly deserves his death. This is a guy who needlessly crept around on Brendok like a kid's TV presenter sneaking around a hospital, rather than openly and honestly introducing himself to the witches. This is a guy who spied on them, got what was obviously a fraction of the truth, then went to Trinity all hot and heavy, insisting the girls were in danger and might even be sacrificed. And while, yes, he was absolutely justified in stabbing the smoke demon, he was very stupid to try and lift the bridge rather than the twins off the bridge, and then he was very stupid not to check whether Fannie Mae was still alive. He was also very stupid in keeping the cover-up story going for 16 years when, if anything, the truth was less incriminating. He was very stupid not to ever tell Occupational Safety and Health Administration what really happened to her evil mother. In the present tense story, he was probably silly taking Occupational Safety and Health Administration along on the hunt for Fannie Mae, given what he knows about their true nature. Despite his supposedly special connection to her, he was stupidly blind to Occupational Safety and Health Administration's undergirding rage, which we're now supposed to believe was the cause of her dropping out of Jedi Academy, neither of which he seems to have noticed at the time, though in his defense this might be because Amanda Stenberg has the emotional range of a spatula. He was unbelievably stupid not to mind read Timu Ezra when he had him in custody on Olega, and he was unbelievably stupid to let him off with a caution for his role in Tommen's murder. He was careless to let Fannie Mae escape from him on Olega. He was stupid to keep saying, "I have something very important to tell you," rather than just telling Occupational Safety and Health Administration the truth before anyone had a chance to interrupt him. He was stupid to hesitate rather than killing Smilo on Kofar. He was a dunce not to tell Fannie Mae the important context when she accused him of murdering her mother, and he was careless to let her escape. In all, nice though he seems, and great as Lee Jung-jae has been, Squid Game has stumbled through this plot like a drunk woman out on the town trying to shag her way past her daddy issues, making mistake after mistake after mistake, and there comes a point when your stupidity earns your demise. It's a shame that he dies, but taken as a whole, can anyone really say it wasn't merited? Smilo, continuing to forget he could win this fight by using his helmet, pulls his second blade and the fight continues. The glow sticks they use for lightsabers these days really don't look great in these lighter surroundings, thus proving that practical isn't always best. Then, having knocked Smilo's second blade away, Squid Game follows up with another attack of the cringe. I really don't know why you turned your lightsaber off for that trick, and I really don't know why you pulled that trick in the first place when you had an opening to win the fight. It's a lot like Jackie running around kicking Smilo in the shins in episode 5 when she could have just taken his leg off. Yes, that's right. It's the best choreography of all time! This totally beats the prequels. I love the bit in Phantom Menace where Qui-Gon puts his lightsaber away and Bullet Time kicks Maul in the chest rather than killing him, but this is way better even than that. This is exactly what I've always imagined Jedi Knights doing. I'm so glad someone with Headland's vision has finally taken charge. Smilo then pulls a maneuver of his own that's designed to generate excited Wojaks on Twitter. Wow, so cool! Smilo uses the Force to grab his sabers back, which I point out here because Squid Game will forget to do this himself later. Then we hop away to the dramatic, emotional reunion of Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Fannie Mae.
All of this death, everything that happened here, all because you didn't want me to become a Jedi. I didn't do this. Sol lied to you. He blamed me. Sol never blamed you. He tried to teach me to accept that someone that I love could be capable of this level of destruction. And I failed.
This is all completely true, which I point out here because Squid Game will forget to do this later. Fannie Mae did start the fire. She did cause this destruction. Squid Game never blamed her. The only bit we don't know to be true is that he tried to teach Occupational Safety and Health Administration to overcome her grief and anger, because this has literally never come up before, despite it supposedly being the reason she left the Jedi Order, and so the reason he lost the Padawan he was fucking pair bonded with, because that's how it works now. It's like Twilight, but somehow worse. There have been opportunities to front this. Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Squid Game were together from the end of episode 1 to the end of episode 5, and they had a heart-to-heart beat in episode 2 on the ship. It's just that the show completely squandered the chance to accomplish anything at all with that scene, which now looks even less plausible given everything we know. Fannie Mae was presumed dead, now they know she's alive. Fannie Mae caused the death of her family, and anger at her actions has supposedly defined Occupational Safety and Health Administration for her whole whole adult life, it being the reason she had to leave the Jedi Order and so sacrifice her dream. We know how much Squid Game cares about her, and we know how genuinely he regrets what happened on Brendok, so you'd have thought this might have come up in conversation once he and Occupational Safety and Health Administration were reunited, but it didn't.
I could never learn to calm my negative emotions.
Negative emotions is not the sort of formulation you use when you are consumed by negative emotions, darling. It's very therapy at liberal arts college type language. Why not anger? Why not hatred? After all, at this moment, these are the negative emotions she's supposed to be feeling toward Fannie Mae, even though per episode 4 she absolutely had mastered them, which is why she was happy to depart the temple and walk out of the show, leaving her sister to the Jedi, but I guess we've just forgotten that beat.
My hatred of you, my grief over our mother.
That's a bit more like it.
Sol killed our mother. I saw it with my own eyes. He's lied to you every day since you left our home. How could he teach you to control your negative emotions? He's the reason you have them.
No? You're the reason she has them because you tried to burn her alive. You might also recall that your darling mother turned into a cloud of evil and tried to dissolve you. Look at her trying to act there.
You have hate. You have anger. But you don't use them.
Just imagine it's 400 years of white oppression enslaving you like the ancestors you keep comparing yourself to, Amandla. Let the discourse fuck with you. It gives you focus, makes you strong. Here we go again, another fight. Only this time it's between two people who grew up on opposite sides of the galaxy being trained by entirely different people in entirely different conditions for entirely different purposes. So naturally they have the exact same fighting style. And no, it's not explicable by Smilo being a former Jedi himself, since Yord went to great lengths to tell us explicitly in episode 5 that Smilo is dangerous because he doesn't follow rules known to the Jedi.
He doesn't follow the rules of combat, and there's no method to his movements. It doesn't make sense.
But they're the same person, so it's fine. Fuck it. Whatever. Pip jizzes on her face, proving Amandla has a fallback option if this whole acting thing doesn't take off, and because we need that tonal shift in what's supposed to be a duel of the fates. On and on and on they fight. And they really don't care about disguising the stunt double at all. There was George Lucas in the early 2000s pioneering new technology to superimpose faces over stunt doubles in a way that mostly holds up, because the films are not shot to allow you to look too closely. Here, by contrast, is The Acolyte, with a budget almost equaling Attack of the Clones, just let that sink in, which already had access to better forms of that technology and just couldn't be fucked. Yes, let the whiteness flow through you, a powerful bitch you will become. It's the best choreography of all time!
Now you pay for what you've done.
Oh, they're not here for me.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean, Smilo? You have absolutely no idea what they're here for. You have no idea what Squid Game's told them. Since Squid Game himself brought them here, it might be logical to assume he told them who they're looking for. And while he hasn't done that, you really shouldn't be assuming he's as monumentally stupid as he is, Smilo. It's as if the show really does want us to think that Squid Game is a suspect in the eyes of the Jedi, which Smilo can't know, but which shouldn't be possible in the first place. Not only are there too many witnesses, not only does Squid Game have several cast iron alibis, but there's also absolutely no reason for Squid Game not to have told Green Bean, or even the High Council, what enemy they are facing. The guilt he was trying to hide has nothing to do with Smilo. Smilo is a completely new and unexpected commodity, and he's cut down a dozen Jedi while calling himself a Sith. Squid Game has no motive not to divulge that, and he's had every opportunity to divulge that. Even if the show has gotten confused about the extent of the coverage his guilt affords, he's here on Brendok to confess, not to cover things up, meaning that he doesn't even have a mistaken motive for secrecy on this score. Smilo delivers this line because it foreshadows later events, but he's only able to foreshadow later events because, as happens over and over and over again in this show, he's read the fucking script. Stop reading the script, Smilo, it's fucking cheating! Also, good job nobody in that ship is looking out the window at the massive vagina fortress, otherwise they might have spotted the red and blue lightsabers clashing. Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Fannie Mae also spot the approaching ship. And then fucking Fanny Batman's out of the scene as well, which doesn't work at all because she was standing right opposite Occupational Safety and Health Administration. She has to have run out of the scene, and running makes noise. And she didn't have time to get out of the room before Occupational Safety and Health Administration spotted her. Stop that manning around the set. Fucking everybody, it's cheating. Outside, we get one of the most dysfunctionally retarded lightsaber lockups in history. Look at this shit. They've actually both broken each other's block here. They actually have to be pulling against each other for this to work. The lightsabers are on the wrong side. If either one flipped their wrist forward, they'd have poked the other one in the head, which would be fine for Smilo because he's wearing his Cortosis helmet, which he still isn't using, even though this is exactly the situation where it would be most useful. Go on, just fucking bonk him. Bonk his lightsaber, Smilo. Do it, you'll win. You know what this is, though? You know what this is? Fucking I mean, it's the best choreography of all time. Smilo then seemingly does go to headbutt Smilo's lightsaber, or rather to pull his lightsaber into his head, but Squid Game turns his lightsaber off and on again, so it's fine. This is entirely dumb. There was no reason for Smilo to pull Squid Game's lightsaber onto his helmet. He could have just moved his helmet onto the lightsaber. Also, he didn't need to do that because he'd broken Squid Game's block and could have just stabbed him in the fucking face. Then we get one of those samurai film rip-offs where they both dart past each other and pose for a bit, but Smilo doesn't fall to his knees and die, which is usually what happens. Squid Game has, though, managed to chop the top off his lightsaber, and I guess somehow this also knocks out the smaller second lightsaber, even though they both have to have their own crystals and their own independent internals, because, you know, he has to split them to fight, but fuck it. No, the second one doesn't exist anymore so that the rest of the scene can happen. It's a disappearing weapon. This is Star Wars. Deal with it, you fucking nerds. Smilo then takes his helmet off. He could still use it as a weapon, but he doesn't. Instead, he walks up to Squid Game and seemingly baits him into killing him. But then Squid Game gets ambushed by a fanny.
Good, Mae. Feel your anger. This is the source of your pain.
Oh, but no, Smilo, no it isn't. Because remember, there are at least 14 different Fanny Mays, and there's just no way of knowing which one you're talking to in any given scene. There you are, assuming the one who's been motivated solely by revenge for the last 16 years, to the point of training to assassinate 4 Jedi Masters, the one who's devoted her life to her anger, the one who tried to kill Squid Game even after giving up on killing Kilnaka, that she's the one you're speaking to here. I mean, wasn't she literally just seconds ago baiting Occupational Safety and Health Administration with anger and revenge? Wasn't she mere moments ago blaming Squid Game for killing her mother? Did she not run away from Squid Game even though his plan was to turn himself into the Jedi in order to lead him into the depths of Fort Vagina for reasons? Surely all of this has to have been done by revenge, Mae. But that is your fatal mistake, Smilo. This isn't revenge, Mae. Not anymore. At some point off screen, she switched out for Justice Mae again, and Justice Mae doesn't want to kill Squid Game. Justice Mae wants Squid Game to confess his sins, that aren't really sins, to the Jedi Council.
Strike him down, and your journey will be complete.
Oh boy, another reference.
Strike me down with all of your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete.
No. I want him to confess what he did.
Well, fuck me with a barge pole, what a catastrophic mess. Justice Mae makes absolutely no sense as a character. Revenge Mae does, by comparison. Revenge Mae always hated the Jedi. Her entire conception of her origin is that the Jedi invaded her home and so are responsible for the death of her mother, and her whole coven to boot. Revenge Mae tried to burn her sister alive just to stop her joining the Jedi. Revenge Mae has trained for years, has become an assassin to murder Jedi. She has murdered Jedi, to get back at them for what she perceives as their original sin. Revenge Mae hated the Jedi even before they arrived, her whole coven fearing and distrusting the Jedi, having been driven out of the Republic and to the brink of extinction. Revenge Mae has no faith in the Jedi Order or the Republic, in law or in justice. She is a lone assassin. Justice Mae, on the other hand, shares absolutely every single beat of that backstory, but she popped into existence in episode 4, and all of a sudden she does have faith in the Jedi and the Republic as institutions. So much so that she's prepared to complete completely renege on Revenge Mae's life's work in order to turn Squid Game into the authorities, seemingly, if only vaguely, in a bid to convince her sister to come back to her, ? Absolutely nothing has happened to smooth the jump between Revenge Mae and Justice Mae, and hell, Revenge Mae reared her mop again on the ship with Squid Game when she went to stab him in the back, but then didn't stab him in the back for reasons, maybe because Justice Mae had come back into the scene, I don't know. Leslye, help us out here. From the Collider interview. Question. I really love how they do switch places, essentially. Where they are at the beginning and at the end are completely inverted. How vital was it to get them into this inverted state, and does it sort of foretell where their arcs could potentially go in the future as well? Leslye. Absolutely. The challenge was, we're gonna start with this former Jedi and we're gonna start with this aspiring Sith. They're on opposite ends of the spectrum. We always knew that Mae was gonna end up with the Jedi, switch places, and Occupational Safety and Health Administration was gonna end up with the Sith. The difficult part was charting those story beats to get them there. What are the story beats to support these journeys? And I really feel like we achieved it. I really feel so compelled by the performances, especially Lee Jong-jae. He has to do it himself. Amanda Stenberg is kind of split and does it very, very subtly and does it very, very subtly and emotionally charged. Fuck off, Leslye. But how are we gonna get them there? So, yeah. How are you going to get them there? Because, you know, it reads as if you put them there, but you didn't actually bother with the story beats part, Leslye. Occupational Safety and Health Administration's coming switch is only marginally more supported, but at least the show includes an event that it thinks justifies it. But Fannie Mae has switched back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth without any story beats at all to support it. Unlike Occupational Safety and Health Administration, who has been blank from word go, Fannie Mae came into the show having a distinct and defined set of characteristics, values, wants, beliefs, and motives. To effectuate the switch, the Acolyte hasn't answered those, either generally or in Fanny's mind, it's just switched them off. The more natural and believable way for this to play out, based on everything the show has given us, is for Occupational Safety and Health Administration to learn the truth about her mother's death, and for her to be the one who insists on turning Squid Game over to the High Council in pursuit of justice, reaffirming her faith in the ideal of the Jedi, while Fannie Mae, who has been consumed with rage and anger from the beginning, cannot fathom any outcome that doesn't end in his death. This then would be the final separation in the spirit of the sisters, but it would also amount to a positive, dark, but fundamentally optimistic story in which Occupational Safety and Health Administration, who once failed, overcomes the reasons for her failure, thus proving herself to be a Jedi in her suppression of revenge and her faith in justice and the right, while the tragedy of Fannie Mae would be that a girl so similar in so many ways had given into and been subsumed by her darkness. This, though, is not the story the show wants to tell. The show wants to tell the opposite story, but I'm not advancing my alternative here just because I find it preferable. I'm advancing it because it actually makes more sense as a conclusion to the show we got, because it builds consistently on its deuteragonists and it creates for them a natural end that pays off everything that's been set up. That story wouldn't rely on Fannie Mae randomly and completely switching characters, wouldn't rely on Squid Game being too stupid to tell the whole truth, and wouldn't rely on Occupational Safety and Health Administration accepting as whole truth the account of someone she has no reason to trust. This is just one of the things that's going to make the show generally, and this episode in particular, feel so very grubby by the close. It breaks its own back to justify, rather than merely explain, unjustifiable acts. It's not a tragedy. It's a morally perverted celebration of villainy, one that's so keen to celebrate villainy that it actually sacrifices a sensible story to achieve it. But we shall come back to that in due course.
I did the right thing.
Yes, you did, but this is the Acolyte, and in the Acolyte, right is wrong and good is bad, so you deserve to die.
I wanted to protect you both.
From what?
From the evil dark side witch cult that manipulated the Force in a bid to birth Space Jesus, that must have done something pretty nasty to get driven out of the Republic, that mind rapes innocent strangers, and that turns into evil smoke demons at the slightest provocation. There was a safeguarding issue. He dealt with it.
You're not twins. You and Osha are the same person. I don't know how your mother did it, but it has something to do with the virgins on this planet. I believe she used the Force to create you and Osha. Do you have any idea what kind of power that is?
This is maybe not the time for this, Squid Game. The right time was pretty much any time until this point. Generally speaking, when you're asked a specific question, and specifically if that specific question implies that you specifically murdered somebody's mother, explaining why you were doing the right thing takes priority over lore building. I don't know how you expect Fanny to take the news that she's the same person as her sister, because it makes no fucking sense at all. But in the event, she doesn't so much take the news as she completely ignores it, because nobody has any idea what it means, not even the writers. Fanny Mae never reacts to this strange statement. She doesn't even question it, because if she actually reacted to the noises coming out of Squid Game's mouth hole, the writers would have to come up with some sort of explanation. But Squid Game, running with this answer kinda makes it sound like you did what you did because Mother Anusai was powerful, which is not what occurred, as you should remember because you were there when it occurred. You killed her because she turned into an evil smoke demon, remember? That might be worth mentioning, no? Oh, lest you were wondering what happened to Squid Game's lightsaber, Fanny Mae stole it, but then she threw it away and the front lens smashed on a rock. It's not actually broken though, don't worry, even though it looks it, it's not. We just need to see inside the penis, I mean the lightsaber. Oh, lest you be wondering why Squid Game wouldn't have grabbed it back with the Force given it's not broken, he didn't because defending himself against an armed Sith and an assassin is just not a consideration at the moment, and the show needs Occupational Safety and Health Administration to pick it up. So he can't be holding it, even though he should be holding it, but, you know, fuck it. Occupational Safety and Health Administration wanders toward the scene while Squid Game is explaining how very powerful Mother Anusai was, and she picks up the lightsaber. So yeah, you already know where this is going, don't you?
And you killed her. You killed our mother.
Because she was a fucking demon. God, you got me sounding like Melanie Mack. I don't like it. She was a demon and she'd mind-raped Tommen and the vagina was exploding and the witches were attacking you. Don't you dare just say I did, Squid Game, you fucking moron. It was a proportionate use of force.
Yes. I did.
Fuck! Say, remember how Squid Game has a special connection to Occupational Safety and Health Administration and he can censor from great distances using the Force? Remember how he did that 16 years ago? Remember how he did it at the end of episode 1? Yeah, well, good for you, because he's completely forgotten it's a thing he can do. So he doesn't sense that Occupational Safety and Health Administration has arrived just in time to hear him say that he murdered her mother.
Is that true?
You've got good hearing for someone with a mop on their head. He whispered that from way over there and you heard it?
I was protecting you. It was the right thing to do.
Okay, so now tell her why. You should have told her why already because the cover-up was pointless, but definitely tell her now, Squid Game. She's holding your lightsaber and she randomly discovered the Force in episode 4 and she's consumed with rage and anger, which we know because she told us. She could do anything.
If it was the right thing to do, why didn't you tell the Jedi?
Good question, and there's not really an answer to that because it was the right thing to do and there was no reason for him not to tell the Jedi. But Squid Game, you might want to mention right now that you're going to tell the Jedi. It's the whole reason you're here after all. You have summoned them.
Without Mae, there was no proof you were created in this way.
That is not the issue here, Squid Game. It's not even fucking true either. You had the blood tests. The blood tests proved it.
This is impossible without some kind of manipulation.
The twins were artificially created?
Maybe by tapping into a power dense enough to split one consciousness into two bodies?
And it's not the reason you killed Mother Anusai. You killed her because she was a witch demon, for fuck's sake.
Why didn't you tell me?
They would have sent you away.
No. The stupidity is compounding itself. They were more likely to send her away because you didn't tell them. She was too old to train, remember? Remember how the council told you the twins were too old? A kid who's too old but is also a Force Jesus is more likely to be accepted into the Jedi Order than a kid who is too old but is not known to be a Force Jesus. This whole cover-up makes fucking anti-sense. Not just nonsense, anti-sense. It was completely needless and objectively makes everybody's situation worse, which is why you're about to die, Squid Game, you spoon.
You were too old to train.
She was too old to train either way, for fuck's sake.
They never would have let you become a Jedi.
But they did let her become a Jedi, and she was too old to train. How is this your response?
I did what I thought was best for you. Of course, I wanted to tell you so many times, but I couldn't.
But you could. You could. She left the Order anyway. There was no point not telling her. Given her not knowing the truth made her angry at Fanny, for the completely unjustifiable reason of she tried to burn me alive, and given this anger is what caused Occupational Safety and Health Administration to drop out of the Jedi Order, you not telling her is actually what ended her dream, Squid Game. And once her dream was over, you still didn't tell her, even though you no longer had any reason not to. Oh, except of course that you were literally going to tell her in episode 4. You just got interrupted by Smilo.
Mae safely to the ship. I'll explain everything.
And then you were literally going to tell her again in episode 5, but you got interrupted by Fanny Mae.
Please, Osha. I'll explain.
And then you were literally going to tell Fanny Mae when you thought she was her sister, but you got interrupted by power cuts.
It's time for me to face the High Council, to tell them everything.
Again, all this stuff is probably worth mentioning, Squid Game, because you know she's going to kill you if you carry on not telling her everything that could exonerate you.
I did everything because I love...
Well, shit, that was inevitable. Well, I mean, it wasn't inevitable. He could have not been an idiot, but given he was written to be an idiot, I guess it was inevitable. This entire bit is just sad. It's partly sad because Squid Game is the only likable character, stupidity be damned, and it's partly sad because Lee Jung-jae really does do an excellent job, and it's significantly sad because he did nothing wrong. He did do what was best. He did do it out of love. He did act with the best intentions, and he doesn't deserve to die. I'd congratulate the show for making me feel genuine emotion if I thought the show really recognized that's what it's doing here, but the thing is, I'm genuinely not sure it does. Headland in that Collider interview actually gives the impression she thinks this is a triumphant moment. She passes it as Occupational Safety and Health Administration transcending, and I quote, benign sexism, transcending, and again I quote, paternal protectionism. And the Collider interviewer expresses frustration that Squid Game being nice and telling Occupational Safety and Health Administration that he loves her and that it's okay is a bit like he's giving permission for all of it to happen, and so denying her agency, which is a bad thing? And that's a suggestion with which Leslye agrees. No, I'm really genuinely not making any of this up. I'll be quoting that section in full a little bit later. So while I'm sad because it's a good man being unjustly murdered by an insufferable mop-headed the show isn't particularly sad about any of it. It seems genuinely to believe this is all possibly even a good thing, and Squid Game bought it on himself. Everybody else in the scene is just on pause in this moment because the writers couldn't think of anything to do with them. And then yet another terrible thing occurs. Remember the lightsaber? Remember how it cracked when Fanny Mae threw it and Squid Game forgot to catch it? Look at that crystal in there. Pretty sure that's not functional now, is it? Surprisingly fragile, these lightsabers. I remember those old lightsaber diagrams that were canon up until a few seconds ago. Lightsabers are a complicated bit of kit. It's not just a torch shining through a colored crystal. You've got your crystal energy chamber, and above that you've got your energy channels and your cycling field energizers and so on. That one there looks completely fucked. Look, the crystal's poking out the top and everything. If you turn it on, it'll probably explode, or it might at the very least take your hand off. But you see, from the moment the Disneyverse introduced the concept of crystal bleeding, this was only a matter of time. Boy, I can't wait to not buy the Ultra Pixels version. For the uninitiated, lightsaber bleeding is a relatively new idea whereby Sith created their red crystals by pouring all their worst thoughts and most horrible emotions into them. Essentially, it's a skin you unlock by being edgy. In the early days, and by the early days I mean the days a few years ago when it was first introduced, around about 2016 I believe, this was supposed to be an intensely difficult task. There's a Vader comic where he almost kills himself trying to turn his crystal red. It took time, it took pain, it took effort, trial and error, which if you are going to run with this concept, it probably should. Otherwise, shitty writers will just use it shittily, like changing eye color in a bad fanfiction to indicate a changing moral character, and then some shitty toy manufacturer will come all over the place because the kids are gonna love it. Because lightsabers are not, supposed to be toys in universe, you do kind of want their color to be more significant to attain than a cosplayer pressing a button on a Saberforge model. But no, that's what it is now. Look, it symbolizes Occupational Safety and Health Administration turning from good to evil because she didn't bother hearing Squid Game out and can't convey it in any other way. And oh god, it's so depressing. Then, of course, your question might be, but wait, Anakin was way more tormented than her, and way more powerful too. He also lost his mother, and he feared he was losing his wife and his unborn kids, and the Jedi seemed to hate him, and he had no friends, and Sheev was feeling him up every day. He murdered children in anger, and his lightsaber never changed color. This is one of the more popular responses to this question I've seen on Twitter, and this was the charming follow-up. Predictably, this lousy fuckweasel whose loyalty you can buy with an influencer pack then had the gall to complain about other people being mean in his replies. But it's a telling statement because it reveals how hostile many of these people are to the very concept of storytelling. It's not just apathy and it's not just ignorance, it really is an outright rejection of the premise. Why does this thing contradict the thing I claim I like? Because it does. Why do you care? None of it matters. Fuck the canon. Fuck continuity. God, I just love Star Wars so much. I'd invite him to suck on my elegant weapon for a more civilized age, but he has a beard and I think it'd tickle. Also, I don't like vaginas, so the sex-based insults are pretty much out. That's being depressing. Let's cheer ourselves up. This here is that comic panel, Vader channeling all his hatred, rage, and despair, and this is Amandla Stenberg conveying the same thing? Lol. Say, do you want a completely unnecessary, nonsensical, and unpleasant way of looking at this metaphorically, symbolically? Do you want a glimpse into the Freudian nightmare of Headland's square head? From the Collider interview, once again. Question. While we're talking about fist clenching, Kyber bleeding, oh my gosh! Leslye, this was my dream. Again, we talked very early on in the writer's room about bleeding a lightsaber because to me it's a very intimate thing. In a weird way, it's an earned thing. I talked to Pablo Hidalgo a lot. The crystal has to be exposed. She can't just Hulk out and do it. We've seen it in Fallen Order and the crystal comes right out.
You're here now. We can fight them. Together.
Return to Tanalorr.
What happened there? How'd you end up here?
We were invaded. I held them at bay as long as I could, but there were too many. The battle was horrific. Still, we weren't beaten. Not yet. Not until the Jedi Council gave the order to abandon Tanalorr and then refused to counterattack.
They gave up on it?
Yes. It was my discovery, my home, and they just expected me to throw it away?
Dagon, wait.
I refused to obey and was betrayed by the one I trusted most!
No, stop!
What have you done?
but we knew this is a moment. We don't have time. Laughs. It would be too premeditated. It has to happen in that moment. Without getting too explicit, James' friend, who was the DP of that episode, when he shot looking into the lightsaber, we've always seen the lightsaber as a interviewer. Phallic symbol? Leslye. Exactly. You said it, not me. To look inside it, to look down into it, to see it trailing off. Interviewer. That's such great too, because that is something that was discussed around The Last Jedi as well. There were a lot of people who talked about the moist cave. The moist cave? What the fuck? And all of this self-discovery for Rey inside. What the fuck? She discovered herself inside a vagina. Jesus Christ. There's a lot of imagery that is just inherently baked into filmmaking for both genders and the way that it can be expressed in different forms of the yin and the yang, basically. Leslye. Exactly. And to see this change and to see that it's coming directly from... I mean, even when we were doing VFX, I was like, put veins in her hand. I want this to be so visceral. I just think it's so personal and intimate for her to bleed the lightsaber that way. There you have it, folks. This is us symbolically looking inside a penis because there's imagery that's just inherently baked into filmmaking for both genders, like the cave in The Last Jedi being a vagina, like the yin and the yang, but also sounding probably. This is what college does to your brain, I guess. Fucking hell. God, the music's trying so hard to sell it, but it just doesn't work. Oh good, Green Bean's green team has arrived on the planet, and look, finally, 10 minutes out from the end of the show, they finally get around to tying the antagonist to, the C plots? The D plot, maybe, or maybe even the E plot. You're alive. So that's that question settled. Green Bean was Smilo's master. It was indeed, or at least almost certainly, her light whip that gave him his scar. Like Squid Game with Fannie Mae, Green Bean also seems to have just assumed Smilo was dead, which, given she seemingly tried to kill him, seems rather careless of her. This is another instance where Squid Game's dumb reticence was necessary to contrive a reveal. We don't need to go back over all the many opportunities he had to tell the Jedi what he'd learned on his mission, and particularly who he'd found. A dark side Force user who calls himself a Sith is the kind of thing you really can't be keeping to yourself. But because Squid Game had seen Smilo's face, the show couldn't allow him to do what he had every cause and reason to do, which is inform the Jedi and relay a description of the aggressor. The one potential out is that he never learned Smilo's true name, and nor do we for that matter, assuming that Timu Ezra or Kyber or whatever the fuck was just an alias. But this doesn't really hold up, given the reason Occupational Safety and Health Administration was arrested was that someone recalled her description, and the Jedi were able to match this against their records. Squid Game should have got on the horn and said,
"My whole team is dead. They were killed by a guy calling himself a Sith. He looks vaguely Asian, and he has long greasy hair, and he looks real good naked, I bet. Anyone in the Order remember training a young Asian who looked good naked? Don't tell me you never looked."
Yeah, sure, he kept getting interrupted by suddenly power cuts and such, but he had plenty of time once those were fixed, and while Mae was unconscious, he could have waited around on Kofar to tell them in person rather than running away for no reason, only to summon the Jedi he'd just finished running away from, but without telling them anything about the evil Sith they might encounter. The reveal doesn't tell us too much besides, person we barely know once trained person we barely know and tried to kill him for reasons, which isn't the most compelling beat imaginable. We might infer that Smilo is older than he looks, given he said he was a Jedi a really long time ago, and this could work, given Green Bean is comfortably more than a century old at this point in the timeline. We might fancifully infer that this is because Darth Plagueis has been working his Sith secrets on him, maybe trying to extend his lifespan or keeping him young for a more pleasurable fuck during those long nights in the cave. But as is by now well established, it is unwise attempting to draw causal links between any two beats in the Acolyte, because the show itself itself seldom bothers. Now, I would say this is all yet more evidence of a season 2, or at least of the hopes for a season 2. And since this episode went to air, yet more evidence has emerged to support this thesis. There's now an Acolyte publishing project featuring all the wonderful characters we've bumped into across these episodes. A novel about Trinity and Greenbean? What about a comic about Kilnaka? They'll have more pages than they have readers, to be sure, but it does suggest, along with the significant dollar investment, that the Acolyte was meant to kickstart an epochal project, filling in the 100 or so years leading up to the prequels. We might call it the sunk cost fallacy, a Star Wars story. Combined with the suspiciously artificial fan campaign to get the show renewed for another season, it's not too wild a conspiracy to suggest that Disney Lucasfilm won't let performance interfere with its plans. They do seem pretty committed to me, and I'd say a second season is currently more likely than not, though there may be questions over the total budget they will be willing to allocate to any subsequent live-action show. For my part, I hope they go through with it. I really want to see where these complete non-entities end up, and how much more of the universe they can destroy with mere cameos.
I know where they are. Follow me.
I'm gonna take a wild guess and say they're in that giant vagina fortress over there. So the world's most beta Jedi team goes off on the hunt. This is the Jedi at the height of their powers. They'd be beaten by a mild fucking breeze. Basil the Convenience Beaver shows up again. Not for any reason, just because it is convenient. He'll be very convenient again later on. Basil has the capacity to be the most inconvenient thing in the world, of course. It's just that the writers haven't realized the destructive power they've imbued him with. You might have spotted this problem already, but I will elaborate on it later. For now,
we need to leave. Come with me. I know a way out.
Hey, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, you realize this is still the sister who tried to burn you alive, right? We haven't actually settled that score. You finding out that Squid Game killed your evil demon mother doesn't exonerate Fanny. She still tried to arson you to death. And if you had a couple of brain cells under that mop of yours, you might conclude from that the story is a bit more complex than you gave Squid Game the time to explain. You and your sister were on polar opposite paths from your very first scene chronologically. And while you being dumb enough to believe that a lie about the Jedi was the whole truth does remove your initial goal, leaving the Coven to join the Jedi, it doesn't cancel out the depth of the animosity that existed between you two until this precise moment. The only reason it can is that, as I'm now sick of having to point out, Occupational Safety and Health Administration is not a character. Her want to join the Jedi in Episode 3 came out of nowhere and was completely unsupported, even contradicted, by everything that episode established about her upbringing. She wanted to join the Jedi because the writers wanted her to want to join the Jedi, and they couldn't be bothered to write any character beats exploring that. It being completely unsupported even in the writers' minds, it's not really surprising she can pivot so quickly in this scene because the goal is the only consideration. Occupational Safety and Health Administration's entire arc, and this isn't condensed, it really is everything we got, is wanted to join the Jedi for reasons. Failed to be a Jedi because she couldn't suppress her hatred for the sister who destroyed her home in trying to burn her alive, learned that Squid Game killed her mum for reasons, now loves and trusts the sister who tried to burn her to death, will join the Sith later. The only interstitial beat missing, and I omitted it because it's really irrelevant, is that she briefly, maybe, fell in love with Jackie and was told Jackie wouldn't be able to love her deeply enough, so instantly got the hots for the guy who murdered Jackie. There's no way to make the conclusion of that sub-arc not perverse without recourse to disturbing gender-based Evo psychology. But the aborted relationship with Jackie doesn't really accord with the rest of her character in the way that lets it fit into the story, because there's not much character to accord with. Trying to be charitable, I was going to say it was an expression of phantom twin syndrome. She wants someone who can love her all the way to replace the hole left by Fannie Mae. But that really doesn't work because Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Fannie Mae's entire characterization in Episode 3 was antagonistic from the off. One of the reasons Occupational Safety and Health Administration wanted to leave the commune and join the Jedi is that she didn't reciprocate her twins' love. She didn't want to share. She didn't want the attachment. She was tired of doing everything together, and she wanted to be alone, or at the very least apart from her twin.
Stop! Why do you always have to do things like that? Why do you always run off alone? I don't know if I want to be a witch. Of course you want that. No, you want that.
Hold hands.
What are you drawing? Stop! Don't look. It isn't fair. I share everything with you, and you hide things from me or run off alone. I want to have my own things. Why? Because I don't want to do everything together all the time. But why? Because we're not the same. The Jedi are bad. The Jedi are good. I want my own life. I don't want to share it with Mae. I don't want to be a witch. What's wrong with you? We're stuck here now. It's not up to you. You can't stop me. Yes, I can. How? I'll kill you.
And given the Acolyte's thematic through line is the search for freedom, and its value set places freedom as its highest good for reasons we shall come back to at the end, this sudden rapprochement with Fannie Mae doesn't pay off any meaningful character beat. Occupational Safety and Health Administration isn't a character, she is an empty protagonist, so she can make any decisions the writers find expedient because they have no mind to consistency. There is nothing to be consistent with. So off they run, leaving Squid Game's corpse lying on the ground. Smilo has disappeared for the moment, pointlessly given he'll have to search them out again later, and Fannie Mae knows how to get out of the fortress unseen, but fuck it. The Jedi arrive at the vagina's bottom entrance, but oh my goodness, these poor monastic virgins, they have no idea how to access a vagina. Not to worry though, because Green Bean is here and she's a lesbian, so she knows exactly which buttons to push. Oh no, wait, no she doesn't. She just uses the Force. She forces her way into the vagina without consent. This symbolizes rape. But wait just one moment. If the Jedi can just use the Force to open the vagina, then why did the Jedi not use the Force to just open the vagina in episodes 3 and 7? What was the point of Fannie Mae smashing the control panel at the top that was already pointless because Occupational Safety and Health Administration got the lift earlier in this episode? If they could use the Force to get in, then they didn't need to hack their way in and alert the witches. And when they went back, Squid Game and Tommen didn't need to climb up the side of the vagina while Trinity and Kilnaka flew. They could have waltzed in there together with ease and confronted the witches as a group. So what gives, show? Was this, as already theorized, just a cheap way to get the characters split apart because that's what you needed to happen, that you've forgotten about because you no longer need it to happen? Note that Green Bean hasn't told any of her fellow Jedi about Smilo. You might think that a little bit odd, given he's already ambushed and killed at least a dozen Jedi, and were he to try that trick again here, her reticence would be responsible for several of their deaths. God, I hope he kills Mog. But what you don't understand, you fucking idiot, is that Green Bean has read the script, and so she knows Smilo won't try to fight them. He's just gonna run away. Oh, did I say she read the scripts? I mean, she sensed it in the Force, probably. But what she really did was read it in the script. And this is vital for a later beat, because if her fellow Jedi had been informed about Smilo, then her weird cover-up scheme won't work, because there'd be too many witnesses to contradict it. You know, like all the other witnesses already established in the show who will contradict it, but who won't because we've just forgotten about them too. Hi, Basil. Fannie Mae leads Occupational Safety and Health Administration to the big crevasse in the center of the vagina and explains that she got out alive because she was sucked up a tube, which is either a Bespin reference or a fallopian tube reference. And I hate that this is now a theory and not just a joke. Let's just park the fact that on Bespin the pipe was a functioning part of a mega engineering project in the sky, whereas here the tube is just a tube in a small vagina fortress that exploded before she fell into it. And the fact it's not working now at least suggests it shouldn't have been working then. Fuck it though, we've got to get our references in somewhere.
When I fell, I got sucked into this core tunnel.
So why weren't you sucked into it this time?
Come this way.
As opposed to which way? You can only go 2 ways and one of those is backwards. Shut your trap. Meanwhile, the world's least impressive team of Jedi enter the fortress and come across Squid Game's body. None of them bothered to investigate it because if they did, the cover story wouldn't hold up. And none of these non-entities can use the Force flashback ability that occasionally lets people hear past events, because only main characters are allowed to do that. So Master Green Bean hears bits and pieces of episode 7, then instructs her ignorant underlings to set up a perimeter.
Search the premises. The rest of you set up a 5-click perimeter.
Which, well, no. You're already in the fortress, Green Bean. You don't set up a perimeter inside the building, you set one up outside of it. But I guess if you'd done that, then the twins couldn't have escaped, so never mind.
They couldn't have gotten far. Use the tracker.
Use Basil how? Basil needs garments scented with genital musk, remember? He needs something to track. He had Kilnaka's jockstrap in episode 4 and he tracked the scent of the Wookiee's red rocket. You don't appear to have either of the twins' knickers on you. And I can't help but notice that once again, had you done this while outside of Fort Vagina, the twins couldn't have escaped. I do love how Green Bean's action bar is operating on a delay here. Given how much has been made of Green Bean's light whip, you might have watched this scene expecting the two of them to fight. Smilo is her former apprentice. He is now a Sith. He's a vengeful sort. He kills Jedi, and now he's got his old master alone and has the advantage. He even has the high ground. She has a very silly weapon that the show is inexplicably proud of. Mayhap we round off the show with a fight? Oh, no, never mind. We want a second season, don't we? We can't be wrapping anything up here. This means that, yes, the vaunted light whip is seen for precisely 3 seconds across the entire show, and its one and only use is to twat a bug. What an epic, epic weapon. Now we know the Acolyte actively despises the idea of time, but some of us still cling to it. The sequence of events is as follows. Green Bean and the soy arrived. She sent a team out to establish a perimeter, later than she could have, and she sent another team off with Basil the convenience beaver, also later than she should have. So they are already on the trail of the twins, somehow. Smilo has waited until they departed, and he has no convenience beaver, meaning that if he wants to catch up with the twins, he has further to go, less time in which to do it, must get past a perimeter to avoid detection, and find them in the woods without the aid of a tracker. Consequently, it will appear quite silly if he somehow achieves all of this and finds the twins, not only first, but leaving enough time for a long conversation with them. The only way he can realistically achieve this is if the show once again ditches reality and has him teleports, which of course is exactly what it does. Meanwhile, pussy-free Vtuber leads his team of limp-wristed twiglets out into the forest, only then to decide that they've found Occupational Safety and Health Administration's fanny pack for Basil to have a sniff. Why did you not do this earlier? How have you got this far without using your tracking beaver? What if you'd been walking in completely the wrong direction? Why is everyone so fucking dumb? Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Fannie Mae gained the Boonta tree.
You did all this when you were little? Yeah. Then what did you do? I sat here. And I waited.
Okay, but you know that isn't going to work this time, right? That's not the plan. That can't be the plan, is it? There are 4 spaceships in your near vicinity, and 3 of them have a hyperdrive. Why aren't you just heading for one of them? Who are you waiting for? I mean, we know that you're waiting for Smilo to catch up with you, because he didn't leave with you for reasons, but that's not a plan. You don't even know if he is following you. What if he got captured? What if he got intercepted? What if he decided he still wants to kill you?
Sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry I started that fire.
Oh, well, if you're sorry, then I guess that's fine. All is forgiven. You literally trying to kill me and destroying my home is far less serious than Squid Game not actually lying to me. He absolutely deserved to die, but you're completely forgiven, Fannie Mae, because that's just the kind of gal I am.
You are with me. I am with you. Who taught us that rhyme? I thought you made it up.
I really don't think now is the time, for fuck's sake. You've just murdered an innocent Jedi Master and there's a whole team of, admittedly, vegan Jedi hunting for you. Why are you trying to figure out who taught you the rhyme? It's not even important. Listen, here's Leslye telling us it's not really important. Question: should we pay attention to the fact that Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Fannie Mae don't know who taught them their little rhyme when they were children? Or is that just a moment of them reflecting as she was losing her memory? Oh yeah, we'll come to the memory bit in a moment. Leslye. Oh, that's a good question. On my 3rd rewatch, I was like, Leslye. 3rd rewatch? Laughs? I don't know if there's a big background there. It's just that I liked the idea that as these women let go of their childhood, it's like all of a sudden there's this questioning of, this is supposed to happen to me in my own life? Is this a fond memory, or is this something that was somebody else's thought on us? Does this become ours? And I think it does very quickly. When he does what he does, I think very quickly they embrace it as their own. That is just word salad, Leslye. That is so much salad. Fucking Mog has a tiny little erection. How can you be so vague about the main characters in the most important thing you've ever created?
If I can find you, so can the Jedi.
Yeah, how did you find them? You don't have a beaver, you have a penis. Why did you even need to find them? Why didn't you just leave with them? And how did you make it past all those Jedi to get here first, even though you left after them and they were establishing a perimeter? The Jedi are approaching at this very moment, but they're on slow-mo, I guess, so they don't arrive in time to stop this catastrophe ever seen.
We'll explain what Soul did.
I'll show when they find out how powerful you are.
You will meet the same fate as our mother.
So, to recap, Fannie Mae wanted to kill Squid Game. Then she didn't want to kill him because she wanted to explain things to the Jedi. Then she ran away when he summoned the Jedi to explain himself. Then she attacked him. Then she said she wanted him to explain himself to the Jedi. Then Occupational Safety and Health Administration killed him. And now you both want to explain what he did to the Jedi, even though he was going to do that himself, and even though you've just murdered him, so they're not likely to listen to you. You've murdered every single witness to the events on Brendok. You expect the Jedi now to take your word for what went down? No! Also, if you think the Jedi would murder you if they found out how powerful you are, then surely you think Squid Game did the right thing in not telling the Jedi what you are. But you killed him anyway? It's not even the reason your mother died in the first place, for fuck's sake, but surely that means you've accepted the premise that he was protecting you.
What do we do? What do you want, Osha?
She hasn't got a clue what she wants because she isn't a character. We've established that pretty fucking firmly at this point.
Let my sister go and I will train with you.
Hold up. How about you just all leave? Smilo's not trying to kill Fannie Mae anymore. He made that abundantly clear when he tried to coax her into killing Squid Game to complete her training.
Good, Mae. Feel your anger. This is the source of your pain.
He dropped a Return of the Jedi reference in and everything.
Strike him down, and your journey will be complete.
Why aren't you just flying off together? You're probably a Force dyad. You're at your strongest together, as your mother explained to you many years ago. And you've just established that you think the Jedi would kill you if they found you. Now you're saying we should dump one of you and leave so the other one can become a Sith? Where the fuck has any of this come from?
Are you sure? The Jedi will use me to find you.
Why are you so fucking sanguine about this, Fanny? Your entire shtick has been finding your sister. You were invested in this from the moment you knew she was alive. You burned down Fort Vagina to stop her leaving you. This is the one thing you have consistently wanted, to have your sister back. You can't just casually be up for letting her go now. We don't need a 15th version of your character. And either they're gonna use you to find her, fuck knows how if you don't know where they're going, but whatever, or they'll kill you because you're too powerful. Which one are we running with at the moment, show? Meanwhile, Basil lets the Jedi know they'll miss their cue unless they up the pace a bit, so the Jedi start running. I wouldn't worry about it. Vegans have appalling stamina. They'll exhaust themselves after the first 100 meters. And the noise of Basil's barking lets the villains, the heroes, know that their enemy is closing in on them.
I can attempt to wipe her memory. Remove any trace of you or me. Permanently.
You mean you could do that, or you could just take her with you. Why are you not just taking her with you? Why is she letting you do all this? And if wiping memories is a thing you can do, and a thing the Jedi can do, given you begged Squid Game not to wipe yours back when he should have been reading it on Olega, then why the fuck wouldn't Squid Game have wiped Occupational Safety and Health Administration's memory? Why wouldn't he have captured Fannie Mae on Olega and wiped her memory, if he was sincerely committed to his cover-up? Being able to wipe the memory even of Force-sensitive people is an incredibly useful power. It's so useful it risks breaking an awful lot of later material where that skill would have been useful but wasn't deployed. The closest thing to a mind wipe I can remember from Star Wars is probably Revan from Knights of the Old Republic, but even then, as best I recall, the Jedi did not wipe his mind. It was wiped by accident, and it took several of the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy at that time to rebuild his persona after the fact. Any subsequent mystery arc in Star Wars involving a powerful Force user is rendered invalid if said Force user leaves witnesses that he could and should have mind wiped. Why didn't Dooku wipe Django's mind? Why didn't Creamy Sheev wipe Viceroy Gunray's mind? And you shouldn't be doing this anyway. You should be taking both of the twins fucking with you. We know your master is Darth Plagueis, not just because we saw Darth Plagueis, but because Leslye has confirmed in interviews that he is indeed Smilo's master. We also know that Plagueis is interested in Force vergences. Are you seriously telling me that Smilo, Plagueis' apprentice, is going to voluntarily leave behind one half of the one thing his master actually needs for his research? Absolutely nobody should want this. Not Fanny, not Occupational Safety and Health Administration, not Smilo, not Plagueis. This plan breaks every single character involved in it. God damn it. And anyway, how can you know this is even a permanent mind wipe? Revan regains his memories in Knights of the Old Republic. If an individual Jedi can wipe a person's mind, who then is to say that a group of powerful Jedi couldn't undo the damage? Why don't you fucking lobotomize her with your lightsaber just to be sure? The audience won't notice the difference, it's how she acts anyway.
Do it. Quickly.
No, don't do it. Nobody should want this. You particularly should not want this.
I can't lose you again. You're not. You're going to do what you were meant to do.
What a fucking arc, ladies and gentlemen. She tried to burn her sister alive to stop her doing what she was meant to do. Then nothing changes. Now she's letting her sister leave with a guy who until 5 seconds ago was trying to kill her, who until 5 seconds ago she believed had tricked her into a doomed quest to kill Jedi without a weapon, and at the cost of the memories that have motivated her for her entire fucking life.
And I won't stop you this time.
Why won't you? Why not? Why won't you stop her this time? You make no sense, Fanny. Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Smilo each grasp the phallic object representing their mutual commitment to the liberating virility of the penis, probably. And Occupational Safety and Health Administration tells him to wait while she gives her sister a hug. The sister she's about to lobotomize, abandon, and leave to the Jedi she believes might kill her. What a terrific, terrific, terrific character!
I'll find you. I know you will.
If you're going to find her, then why not skip that part and take her fucking with you? My God in heaven. This is mostly done, of course, to sell the mind wipe itself, as they start reciting the rhyme to each other while Smilo waves his hand around. As the wipe takes place, Fanny Mae gradually begins forgetting her lines until she stares off into the middle distance.
I give you you. And you give.
Look.
You give.
If we finally beat Medicare.
You are going to knock her out or something, right? Because, you know, if you wipe her mind up to the present moment, she's still going to remember your face and Smilo's helmet and the fact you're waving your hand around suspiciously, and she's going to remember the two of you running off and which direction you'll go in. I mean, she'll still be a lead unless you knock her out. No, never mind. We can accomplish the same thing with a jump cut.
Don't move. Lay down any weapons that you have and surrender. You're under arrest.
Honestly, I'd resist arrest just on principle. What are you gonna do about it, Mug, huh? What are you gonna do? Come on, restrain me. I dare you. We'll arm wrestle over it. Bring it on, Mug. Try and stop me. Go on, I'll use one finger. Try and push me. No, you can't, can you? Because you replaced all your testosterone with fucking corn. Then we jump away to Coruscant, where Loboto Fanny is brought to Master Greenbean's quarters. One of the Jedi is holding Pip, and yeah, we'll be coming back to that in a moment.
Remove her restraints. Leave us.
So I guess you've confirmed that she has been mind wiped, right? Like, you know she's not a threat. Did you forget to do any kind of biometrics tests on her? Any blood tests, say, that might reveal how high her M count is? I can't help but notice that on top of all the many other reasons the preceding scene doesn't really work, Greenbean already knows about Smilo, and he already knows that she knows about him. So the only conclusion she could possibly reach is that he mind wiped Loboto Fanny, which is itself a lead, especially since the Jedi know exactly what Occupational Safety and Health Administration looks like, and she's a twin. There is not a single way that mind-wiping Fanny and leaving her behind actually helps keep them secret, when the alternative was her going with them.
Do you know why you're here?
They say I killed someone, but I don't remember.
What do you remember?
Fire. It destroyed my home.
Yeah, that would be the fire that you set, darling, irrespective of anything the Jedi had done, which makes you guilty for at least part of the crime that's about to be pinned on Squid Game. We'll learn, by the way, that Smilo wiped every memory after Fanny Mae turned 8 years old. No, she's not going to act like an 8-year-old because Amanda can't do that. But that also means that she should remember everything up to the fire, doesn't it? And her remembering everything up to the fire is enough to prove that the Jedi did nothing wrong, because it will include everything we saw her do in episodes 3 and 7. The Jedi turning up innocently, the Ascension ceremony, everything she's ever been told about what she is, everything about the witches, believably everything about her mother becoming a smoke demon. Smilo would have had to wipe everything leading up to the fire for this mind wipe trick to have any meaningful effect at all.
I'm seeing a man. He killed my mother.
Say, remember how in episode 1, Squid Game used the Force to make an insane person tell the meta truth? Remember how he was absolutely mad? Then Squid Game prodded his mind and he began calmly relaying the actual unvarnished truth?
What happened to the young woman?
She helped me, and I betrayed her and took the last escape pod.
Sure seems like that'd be a useful trick for Green Bean to try in this scene, but she won't do that because the script needs her not to do that, and that's just how writing works.
Your last memory is from when you were 8 years old.
Yes, and that's more than enough for you to be going on with, Green Bean, if you switched your damn brain on for just a couple of seconds.
That man who killed your mother was a Jedi. He was my friend. He was a kind, brilliant, compassionate man, and he did a terrible thing.
Yeah, hitting a little close to home there, aren't we, Leslye? Anyway, this beat initiates a cover-up of Green Bean's own making. I guess we can read it as her trying out lines she will later use in an official capacity, but Green Bean is about to close off this tale with a terrible thing of her own. To protect the Jedi Order, she is going to blame Squid Game for everything we have just seen, which entails not only a cover-up of the witch's existence and their culpability, but a cover-up of the involvement of the actual Sith, all in a bid to protect the Jedi Order.
16 years ago, 4 Jedi were stationed on the planet Brendok. There, they discovered a force cult of witches. A conflict ensued. There were many casualties. Afterwards, the Jedi conspired to keep their actions secret. Recently, when the truth threatened to come out, a rogue Jedi named Soul killed his accomplices to maintain the cover story. Sorry, my friend.
Wow. Just fucking wow. I can think of very few characters who've managed to completely trash their own integrity in so short a scene. This is an astonishing moment. And you know what? You know what? It doesn't work. It doesn't work for the purposes Green Bean imagines it does. Her goal here is to head off any outside investigation of the Jedi Order by creating a cover story that portrays the events on Brendok and the subsequent assassinations as a closed event. It was all Squid Game's fault, but then he killed himself, so there's nothing more to see here. You guys can just go back to fucking up my taxes or whatever it is you do. Now, to show how absolutely none of this works, let's consider it from, for example, Senator Rayencourt's perspective. This story actually confirms his suspicions right off the bat, that the Jedi are an innately unstable force that could do immense damage the minute even one of them snaps. The story actually gives him more reason, not to mention more justification for pursuing the Jedi Order, which is the thing Green Bean is here trying to prevent, and that's just the start. Green Bean burns Squid Game's body on Brendok. She has literally burned the evidence and is now asking people who already distrust her to trust her. Obviously this doesn't work. Obviously this should only provoke Rayencourt to pursue all the harder. And hey, what if he does insist on an investigation? How easily does this story fall apart? Well, for one thing, the entire show kicked off with a random bartender who witnessed Fannie Mae killing Trinity, reported it to the Jedi, complete with a description of the suspect, and that description was so accurate that the Jedi instantly knew, or believed they knew, who they were looking for. That bartender is still alive, so is the apprentice that Yord took with him. Any Republic investigation beginning with the first beat of the mystery would completely explode Green Bean's cover story. But let's assume the Republic somehow contrived to miss the first beat, or somehow never found the bartender, or never thought to interview that Padawan. Where else could they start? Well, how about on Olega with all the Jedi in the temple there? All those Jedi who were not part of Green Bean's conspiracy, who reported the attempt on Tommen's life while Squid Game was still on Ice Planet. Those same Jedi could attest that they were walking through a corridor with Squid Game when Tommen was murdered, which testimony would again explode Green Bean's story. Might such an investigation also want to check out all the logs and interview anyone who'd ever spent any time with Squid Game over the period during which these assassinations were carried out? Yeah, you bet they would. Oh, what's that? Your Pip droid remembers everything that happened since episode 6? Then boom goes the cover story again, because Pip knows all about Fannie Mae. Pip has seen Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Pip was present when Squid Game tried to defend himself. Pip witnessed his murder. Pip saw who killed him. Pip saw the 3 accomplices together on Brendok, witnessed the mind wipe, presumably saw Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Smilo running off together, so Pip could bring down not only the cover story, but But in bringing down the cover story, he could trash the reputation of the entire Jedi Order while also revealing the involvement of a dark side Force user with a red lightsaber. And he's not the only one. Who else might they want to interview? Why, of course, it's fucking Basil. And Basil has witnessed almost every significant event since episode 4. Basil knows there are 2 girls, Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Fannie Mae. He knows what they fucking smell like. Basil was sent on a mission to hunt down Fannie Mae because everybody knew by that point that she was responsible for the murders. Basil witnessed the events on Kofar. Basil knows about Fannie Mae. He knows about Smilo. He saw Smilo killing Jedi. He's even, I believe, seen Smilo's face. So Basil could explode the cover story, reveal the Sith, and bring down the Jedi Order. Basil has the power to ruin all of Star Wars. Let that sink in. And while we're at it, what about all the other Jedi who've crossed paths with this conspiracy? We know cringe lord Britfucker believed Squid Game was involved, but he's an idiot and the protein deficiency has degraded his brain. The other Jedi on Brendok in this episode were sent after another suspect, not after Squid Game, and Squid Game was in the room as the Jedi discussed the ongoing assassinations in episode 4, so they might have noticed that he was teaching children in the temple while Trinity was being killed, so he couldn't possibly have killed her. Fucking Ki-Adi-Mundi could explode the story, and that is all without taking any kind of flight logs from Squid Game's ship, all of which could give him an alibi, or investigating the murder of the apothecary owner on Olega, or interviewing any of the civilians on Kofar, or sending any Jedi Master with the Force flashback ability to any place where plot-relevant events occurred. This cover story is completely busted. It's got more holes in it than fucking Jackie. It's suspicious from the outset. It invites investigation, it doesn't put it off, and it falls apart the minute anyone scrutinizes any single part of it. And in aid of this entirely pointless cover story, Green Bean has trashed her own integrity and the integrity of someone she says was her friend, an innocent man who did nothing at all wrong, Squid Game. Fuck me, this is a disaster. This is bad on every conceivable level.
Speaking on behalf of the High Council, we wholly condemn the actions of Master Soul.
I think in light of these events, Chancellor, we cannot wait for a full Senate vote. An external review of the Jedi must begin immediately.
I can assure you, while this is a terrible tragedy, it was the work of one flawed man.
And where is Master Soul now?
He was found dead on Brendok at the scene of his original crime. I believe he ended his own life.
No, you've completely fucked it. You're screwed. The only way you avoid an investigation that completely destroys the Order is if the writers choose to lobotomize every single person in this room. Or fuck it, I guess you could just wipe all their minds too. That's a thing you can do now. That would stand a better chance of success. You would actually have been better off if you had told the damn truth. Much like Squid Game and the Jedi from Brendok, you have told a story that is more suspicious than honesty. You could have told them that the Jedi were attacked by evil witches on Brendok, and the assassinations were a revenge plot carried out by an associate of those witches, which, while tragic, is a manageable threat, and you could either say that you have the suspect in custody but they wiped their own mind somehow, or you could say that you have a lead on that suspect because you've captured her sister. There'd be no way for the Republic to disprove that story. It comes much closer to the actual truth, and you wouldn't have to throw anyone under the proverbial bus or turn yourself into a villain to achieve it.
Soul made a mistake he lived with for so long. It twisted his mind. He justified every selfish step with the love he had for your sister.
My sister?
How do you even know any... Oh, who the fuck cares?
Does the name Osha mean anything? Poor girl.
If her last memory was from when she was 8, then she absolutely does remember her sister, and the name does mean something to her. Unless we're to have it that Smilo erased everything after the day she set fire to the vagina, as well as any prior memories of her sister, which makes it look like this mind wipe's reach is purely defined by what will be necessary for a season 2. Fuck, what happens if Rayancourt demands to interview Fanny and learns her mind's been wiped? Would you blame that on Squid Game too?
But I need your help.
With what?
I need you to help me find someone.
Who?
Pupil of mine, before he turned to evil.
That means you'd better hope Raincourt never discovers you've taken Fanny as a prisoner, which he would discover if he interviewed any Jedi who retrieved her from Brendok, because now he'd learn that you'd been lying and you were secretly hunting for an evil former apprentice. You have just taken all this time and trouble to create a cover-up and then created an entirely new witness to explode it. What are you doing? But hey, at least we got another OT reference.
A pupil of mine, before he turned to evil.
A young Jedi named Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine until he turned to evil.
And ultimately, we jump back to unknown planet that is probably Baldemnik. Here, Occupational Safety and Health Administration hold hands, because not only has she forgiven him for killing her friends and her former love interest in Jackie, and for trying to kill her sister and for kidnapping her, no, all her objections were wiped from her mind the moment she saw his succulent Sith dong, so now they are madly in love. Hey, before you get down to fucking, has anyone considered that you're violating the rule of 2 here? Plagueis is right over there, guys. Maybe he'll give you a few days grace so he can put a destiny on you, but eventually he's going to notice that his significant other has a significant other of their own. He's probably not going to take that very well. Fuck it, he's got nice arms at least and a nice dick. We can't forget about the dick, can we? Anyway, that's it. Oh, no, it's not. It's not over yet. Somehow it's still going. What is this? Where are we going now? Why are we back on Coruscant?
Sorry to disturb you, Master. We need to talk.
I saw the back of Yoda's head. But dude, keep Yoda out of this shit. Don't leave Yoda alone. Poor Yoda, he doesn't need this.
According to Leslye, this final scene was originally supposed to feature Darth Plagueis, but she didn't want to distract from the, triumph of Occupational Safety and Health Administration's journey. So instead, she decided to, still potentially, but still only just potentially, absolutely destroy the prequels. Because of course, if Green Bean tells Yoda anything at all about any of this, especially if it involves her former pupil, then Yoda is far on the way to learning that the Sith are involved in all of this. In fact, the only way for him not to learn that the Sith are involved in all of this is if he's a complete battered moron in the near century between now and the Phantom Menace. He doesn't even have the excuse of the dark side clouding everything in this time period, which is how George used to hand-wave away much Jedi stupidity in the prequels. Creamy Sheev isn't around yet. Are we to believe that Yoda never follows up on any of this? Never asks Green Bean why she waited until now to inform him? Yoda is so powerful, it is reasonable to suppose that he could pull all the information he requires from the Force just by visiting any of the sites we've traveled to during the show, which you'd think he might want to do given we know there was a Vergence on Brendok. It's just that everyone seems to have forgotten about that. Green Bean pulled that information the minute she landed on Brendok, something Yoda must now be prevented from doing if the Phantom Menace is to remain intact, but something he has good reason to want to do given he knows Green Bean has been withholding information from him. That, anyway, we've done it. We've made it. We're at the end. That's the end of the Acolyte. Fuck me. I'm damn near speechless. Probably what you'd expect at this point, given these reviews now span something close to 12 hours long. Say, how about we end where we began so long ago? Grace, take us out.
I wouldn't say that you should give in to the toxic hate, but I think there are certainly ways to not invite it. From choices that are made, but to the strongest of all, by making actually really good content that the other side can fight for. I just feel that this series ultimately became not something that was defensible. At the end of the day, it was almost like it was just manufactured for all the hate, like as a challenge, I'm just so disappointed. And the ratings are very poor. It's not like this is some great battle for the future of Star Wars that's being fought over here. No one cares. It's unfortunate.
I guess we can't really leave it at that, can we? The Acolyte is, and believe it or not, I am trying to avoid hyperbole here, one of the worst pieces of television I have ever sat through. Not only Star Wars television, but television in general. Someone in my comments under, I believe, the last video pointed out that we've reached the point where media criticism isn't about artistic choices anymore. It's about the application of basic logic. Before we even get to the choices made, these reviews have been so long because the Acolyte's writing team hasn't even managed to grasp causality. Time is too big a concept for them. The idea that a character who says, believes, and acts in one way in one scene cannot say, believe, or act in the opposite way whenever it suits you, yeah, that's too much for them as well. A show with a budget to match any one of the Star Wars prequels, while shouldering none of the groundbreaking technical work those films committed to, has failed what should still be grade school standards of writing. It's an open question where this stands in relation to the other Disney Star Wars shows. I believe in terms of ratio of fuck up per minute, it's probably the worst. As for the amount of damage it does, I don't know that anything can really beat The Last Jedi, and the Obi-Wan Kenobi show wasted more potential, but since it began involving Darth Plagueis, and for the calculated and quite sinister attack it mounts on the Jedi as a whole, the Acolyte is being bumped very rapidly up my list. What I'm saying is it's fucking bad. And I've been focusing on those things because they are the foundational problems. You can challenge audiences with daring artistic visions, and you can get away with quite a lot if you have a mind to the basics of writing. The more edgy your idea, the more out there your vision, the more you want to challenge preconceptions. With the attendant risk of damaging something a lot of people really rather like, the more you must do to show you are capable of paying it off. If you can't grasp the most rudimentary constituents of thought, I am not likely to enjoy you challenging high concept or philosophy. Going back to the Chesterton's fence example I gave earlier, if you can't prove to me you understand at least the basics of what Star Wars is and is supposed to be, I am not interested in your subversive take on the franchise. Which inevitably means I've got to say a word or two about the overarching thematic goals of the Acolyte and the motives that I suspect prime them. I generally dislike moralism because moralism so often and so easily supplants critique. If art is not allowed to disgust or offend you, then you don't have art to begin with. The Acolyte is an interesting test case because everything about it challenges our commitment to artistic license. Leslye Headland's past associations are well known, and yet while people of different backgrounds are condemned for lesser crimes with less evidence, think any man driven out of the industry for something as simple as a clumsy advance, Leslye has ascended in rank. We are in the thoroughly peculiar position where we lament the institutional corruption that allowed Harvey Weinstein to accrue so much power and influence, yet we're expected to be silent as this close associate demonstrably accrues so much power and influence, and it's seen as impolite to allege that institutional corruption might be playing a role in it. The artist then is morally suspect. She is difficult to defend. Try as I might, I can't think of a single legitimate reason for her to have been given charge of this show. And what of the show itself? Well, here we have something that not only portrays the triumph of evil, but that registers that as a triumph, i.e. something that should have happened, not something we should clearly regret happening. There is a fundamental difference in tone, in style, and in approach between the Star Wars prequels, which sought to portray the downfall of the Jedi as an explicable tragedy, and the Acolyte, which seems at least ambivalent about the moral entailments of its story, and which gives the strong impression it is quite happy with how things turn out. Here's a quote that doesn't reflect particularly well on her. Leslye: "It's such a triumph for me that in the making of it, there was no part of me that was like, I'm not going to fight for something. I'm going to get fucking Cortosis in there no matter what. I'm going to get Amanda in there doing her own action, which she had never done before, and she stepped the hell up in order to do that. I got to do a corruption arc. I got to do a female character who is choosing darkness and evil, which is honestly my brand. But then I got to do it in this world." Yep, it certainly is your brand, Leslye. I said we'd come back to that Collider interview, and now seems an appropriate juncture. There are several quotes there that pretty well jump off the page. For instance, having said Smilo Ren, the villain, remember, was one of the most relatable characters to her, Leslye expounded upon the point. Leslye: "When you asked about why I relate with the character so much, when he reveals himself and makes his statement of purpose, I had to rewrite that scene many times because the villain outlining his plan is so ridiculous. Really, the ultimate version of that is Heath Ledger's Joker. You're never going to hit that, but that's the goal. So when I was rewriting the scene with him, all the way up to shooting, I was on the treadmill being like, what's he going to say? And my wife, who is a huge part of my creative process, finally she said, what do you want to say? Stop thinking of it like you have to somehow tap into a different guy. And again, Manny was giving this incredible performance all through this, so I'm like, how do I live up to this performance? My wife was like, what do you want to say? I was like, I want to say that people don't want me to exist as a gay woman, as a woman in this particular space, working in this wild sandbox. There's a whole crew of people who believed in me, but deep down I felt like I am unaccepted for who I am because of what I believe in and wanting to wield my power the way I'd like without having to answer to the legion of people that just exist out there. By the way, I think everybody feels this way. I think that's why it resonates when you're honest about yourself and you get personal about it. When he, Smilo, says, I want freedom, that's what I want. I just want freedom. I want to be able to just be out there and be myself and be that type of artist I want to be without having to answer to anybody. That's why I feel so close to him. I also feel like when I get into leadership positions, I do get very vulnerable. I'm not afraid to cry, you know what I mean? There's this feeling that for female directors, they can't cry. I was like, I'm gonna cry because this is my dream. I can't believe we're making this. I am so truly impressed by everyone who has put their faith in me. That is why he, Smilo, represents the Avatar. Now, it is not unusual for a writer to put themselves into any one of their characters, even a villain. And ideally, though not necessarily, you do want the villain to have an explicable point of view. It's the idea that no man is a villain in his own story. Even Hitler thought he had a point. What's unusual, or at the very least indicative, is that the Acolyte doesn't simply afford the villain explanations for his actions. It's that it is not ultimately convinced he is a villain to begin with. What Leslye has done here, based on that solipsistic nonsense about a gender and sexuality next to nobody really gives a fuck about, is make the villain an avatar for her own conception of justice. Smilo wants freedom, the freedom to be himself, to live his life, to love. Leslye wants the freedom to be herself, to live her life, to love. And the Jedi are the unambiguously stultifying force that must be overthrown if Smilo, as an avatar for Leslye, is to have what he and she really deserve. Whereas with the prequels, we can see the flaws of the Jedi but lament their fall as the triumph of something worse, in the Acolyte, we have no cause to lament the defeat of the Jedi, because the Sith, or at any rate Smilo, represents something the creator herself believes is better. The Acolyte consciously sets out to eliminate even the perception of moral worth in the Jedi. To quote Leslye again, but here's the thing, on an emotional level for the audience, now having watched episode 7, you've got the light side and the dark side, Jedi and Sith, but who are you rooting for? Am I finding myself now rooting for the stranger, who I feel incredibly drawn to, who's made himself literally exposed? And Saul, who's been hiding this thing. So that sort of emotional impact of like, I hate what Saul did, but this is the bad guy, he's got the red lightsaber, what am I supposed to do? With the girls, it's similar. Who am I rooting for? I'm kind of rooting for Occupational Safety and Health Administration because I want her to restore her strength in the Force and tap into her negative feelings. But I'm also rooting for Fannie Mae because she was framed by everybody. She was on a quest to find justice in her own way, knowing that the institution would never hold these people accountable. Oh, except of course for all those moments where she did believe the institution would hold them accountable.
What I'm going to do is surrender myself to Kelnaka, and then turn myself into the Jedi. Hello, is anybody there? Can you hear me?
Identify yourself.
My name is... I want him to confess what he did. I want him to face the High Council, the Senate, the Republic. I want him to pay for his crimes.
At no point in the interview, or seemingly in Leslie's mind, is there any treatment of what this ambiguity entails. That Smilo intruded on the Jedi unnecessarily by helping Mae hunt down and assassinate their masters, that he killed a dozen of them in cold blood, that he's seemingly working with Darth Plagueis and so enmeshed in the chain of events that will lead to Palpatine's ascension and the rise of a tyrannical empire that probably wouldn't like Leslie's gender or her sexuality much either, doesn't seem to be a factor. Leslye tears down the Jedi because they represent an immediate restriction born of obligation. Being a Jedi entails moral standards, standards of behavior, restraint in matters of love, a broader duty to the form of justice, all of which stands in the way of Leslie's stated personal goal, this being her personal freedom to be whatever she wants to be, fuck whomever she wants to fuck, act however she wants to act. George Lucas never mounted an attack on what the Jedi represented, and his treatment of the Jedi in the prequels was a lament of the rise of a tyranny that was playing on his mind in the real world.
Either you're with us, either you love freedom and with nations which embrace freedom, or you're with the enemy.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
These terrorists must be pursued. They must be defeated.
And the remaining Jedi will be hunted down and defeated.
Our nation is at war, our economy is in recession, and the civilized world faces unprecedented dangers. Yet the state of our union has never been stronger.
But I assure you, my resolve has never been stronger.
America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world.
In order to ensure the security and continuing stability, the Republic will be reorganized into the first Galactic Empire!
The original arc concludes redemptively. Luke doesn't need to abandon the Jedi to achieve personal growth. Luke's personal growth is in the realization that he is a Jedi, that a hero is not defined by his pursuit of maximal freedom for himself, but by what he is prepared to sacrifice for a higher cause and duty. There are parallels, as there are obviously supposed to be, between the critiques of the Jedi Order as an institution in the prequels and in the Acolyte. And in the name of balance, I will quote Leslye now making this exact point, because it's by far the most defensible point that she has. Question: I really appreciated the fact that he, Senator Rayencourt, is like, you think you're a religion, and Green Bean's so quick to be like, we're not a religion, but I've always viewed the Jedi as a religion. And then I've evolved from my childhood to now. The deconstruction of the Jedi has fit so perfectly into the deconstruction of religion as well. So this scene was truly the moment of everything I've been waiting for someone to call the Jedi out on. Leslye: I'm so glad you feel that way. I'm so proud of it. I feel like we accomplished it. That scene was obviously cooking in my brain for a long time, figuring out how to really succinctly put the concern around the Jedi, but also how the Jedi are going to slowly get sucked into having to acquiesce to political issues. Because again, to protect the Jedi, Green Bean's going to have to play both sides, and that's what ends up happening. It is the acquiescence to politics that motivates what passes for Green Bean's arc in this show, with Headland explaining, and I'll have to take her word for this because I have too much taste to read the High Republic comics, that Green Bean has gone from the optimistic, independent-minded, adventurous type to essentially corporate man. Someone whose want to protect an institution undermines the moral worth of that someone and that institution. This is a fair and interesting thematic inquiry, and it does broadly map onto what Star Wars used to be. The prequels gave us a noble order first tricked, then trapped, then overthrown, because the institution and its faith in its own rightness had become so rigid that it shattered under pressure. Obi-Wan rightly laments the loss of the Order in the original trilogy, but neither he nor Yoda control Luke's fate in the way the Jedi once tried to control Anakin's rise. And Luke's ultimate victory is a personal, not an institutional one. His attachment to his father is, if anything, more important to his triumph than his faith in the Force or in Jedi teachings about the Force. We will come back to whether there's still a point to critiquing the old Jedi Order as an institution, but having been fair to Leslye by including her most defensible point, accuracy demands that I stress Leslye does not confine herself to criticism of the institution. As above, so below. The ideal of the Jedi is targeted by the Acolyte in a way the Lucas era never envisioned. Not only do the villains represent the creator's conception of the right, but villainous actions represent the creator's conception of the right, such that we who cling to old-fashioned moral statements like murder is bad might find her next bit of explanation confusing. The Collider interviewer is on board with all of this, by the way, so I'll begin with the question once again. Question: what's so interesting about that moment where Occupational Safety and Health Administration kills Squid Game is how much is conveyed even while he's choking on his words. Also, and maybe this was my impression of it, but my first thought was, he doesn't even give her the agency to make this choice herself, because he's accepting his fate. It just adds so much more insult to injury. You can't even let her get a satisfactory kill because you're like, it's okay, it's so good. Leslye. We also knew that it was also going to be the betrayal of the father, and I knew we had to juxtapose Luke's forgiveness and Vader's redemption. We're like, this is a story about the Sith, so that's not gonna happen. You're absolutely right. There's this thing that's called benign sexism, and part of it is this paternal protectionism. It seems like this good thing, but like you said, there's this, I have to protect you from everything, I have to make sure you're okay, I have to tell you what track to get on, and then once you're on that track, I need to support you. Ultimately, what happens is, again, this is a father-daughter relationship, as women evolve in their lives and develop their own personalities separate from their fathers, at some point they have to reject that protectionism. Again, I'm so proud of it. I have so many favorite moments in the show. I have like 100, and I'm very happy to go through all of them right now. One of my favorite moments is when he says, I did everything because I love, he's going to say, I love you. And not only is that the level of attachment that an unbalanced Jedi would have, he's very clearly losing it in the last half of the season, but that's also the justification for that kind of behavior between the father and the daughter. The daughter has to surpass him in some way. She cannot stay a little girl or an adolescent or a young adult. She has to, at some point, say, I reject what you've told me, I need to make you proud to follow in your footsteps. She has to do that. I do think when he says it's okay, I think you're right. He is imposing on her agency at that point, but I do think in a weird way she needed it. She needed his acceptance, not his approval, but his acceptance of his fate, I think is what gives her that energy to do the final fist clench. Leslye explicitly frames this in contradistinction to Luke's arc with Vader, but not in moral contradistinction. It's not actually clear she understands the moral quality of Luke and Vader's story. She seems to view it as a mechanical thing that it would be merely fun to invert. Everything about the above explanation would lead you to think that Occupational Safety and Health Administration killing Squid Game is as moral in its own way, as necessary as Luke saving Vader. Having cast Squid Game as the father figure, and moreover one who betrays his daughter by rescuing her from evil witches, Occupational Safety and Health Administration murdering her father is portrayed as a righteous victory over benign sexism, a necessary step to a woman becoming her full self, freed from protective patriarchy. Precisely one half of this is typical. I pointed out in a Little Mermaid video, however long ago that was, that the difference between a hero's and a heroine's journey does seem to be that while the hero must gain and improve his worth, the heroine must simply hold out long enough for everyone to recognize the worth she already has. The animated Little Mermaid is a good example of this difference. It's this benign sexism, to use Headland's formulation, that leads Ariel's father to smother her in his protective patriarchal arms, which forces her to take rash action. But the lesson in that film is learned mainly by the father, who has to realize Ariel was essentially right all along and so release her. The other half of Leslie's explanation is very much atypical and, frankly, quite disturbing. In Leslye Headland's Little Mermaid, Ariel would be justified in murdering her father if he refused to let her go. Her freedom is paramount, and any action taken in pursuit of it is right by definition. Even if the father with his dying breath told Ariel he loved her, this would be passed in Headland's schema as a regrettable expression of patriarchal control, a denial of Ariel's agency only to be celebrated if it gave her the strength to continue choking her father to death. Headland has the right to believe all of this, and she has the right to put it in anything she makes. If she actually believes it to be morally wrong and has just expressed herself poorly, she has the right to explore it in characters she creates. Hell, she has the right to do that even if she believes it to be right. But, like school shooter manifestos or neo-Nazi screeds or shipping fan fiction, the right to write them does not entail that you should be invited to officialize them. Plenty of wackos have written plenty of sick nonsense without being given $180 million by Disney and the Lucasfilm logo to slap on them. To be clear, I am not saying that The Acolyte is not a Star Wars story. I'm saying the fact The Acolyte is a Star Wars story is a bad thing and much to be regretted. It is a profound mistake to have commissioned this show. Leslye Headland has climbed somewhere near the apogee of deconstruction. We are not seeing the tragedy of bad people winning, as with the Star Wars prequels, and we're not taking an honest look at the bad things good people must sometimes do in service of a just goal, as in Andor. No, we're rounding off a show in which at the very least the distinction between good and evil has been abolished, and one which I rather think gives the moral imprimatur to evil itself. This leaves the sane audience with absolutely nothing and absolutely no body to root for. People like Headland and that Collider interviewer might be thrilled to live out their perverse idea of freedom through a Sith, but the kind of people who grew up with the moral presumptions that once defined Star Wars, that there is indeed good and evil, that freedom means nothing without duty, that attachments to others often supersede attachments to the self, find no such enjoyment in it. I am someone with at least some variants of diversity overlapping with Leslie's. I've always felt distinctly more welcome in a universalist franchise than Star Wars than in any work that tells me what it means to be gay, or what I could get away with were I to decide to be a woman tomorrow. Like most people, I think I'd find more fulfillment in saving my father than I would in killing him. Like most most people, I am most moved by stories that require me to look up rather than live down. Like most people, I think the difference between right and wrong, between heroes and villains, is both clear and important, and like most people, I am getting rather sick of the fact that major entertainment companies champion the few people for whom none of the above is true. Now, I was going to close by saying something pithy, like, nowadays there's nothing bold or daring about deconstruction. The courageous thing would be to pitch a story in which the Jedi were unashamedly good. But as I was writing it, I thought it sounded vaguely familiar, and then I remembered why, and where it's from. So instead of me doing it, here's George Orwell in his tragically unfinished review of the lovely Brideshead Revisited. And I quote, "Within the last few decades, in countries like Britain or the United States, the literary intelligentsia has grown large enough to constitute a world in itself. One important result of this is that the opinions which a writer feels frightened of expressing are not those which are disapproved of by society as a whole. To a great extent, what is still loosely thought of as heterodoxy has become orthodoxy. It is nonsense to pretend, for instance, that at this date there is something daring and original in proclaiming yourself an anarchist, an atheist, a pacifist, etc. The daring thing, or at any rate the unfashionable thing, is to believe in God or to approve of the capitalist system. In 1895, when Oscar Wilde was jailed, it must have needed very considerable moral courage to defend homosexuality. Today, it would need no courage at all. Today, the equivalent action would be, perhaps, to defend anti-Semitism. But this example that I've chosen immediately reminds one of something else, namely that one cannot judge the value of an opinion simply by the amount of courage that is required in holding it. As so often with Orwell, it seems to me that all that is strikingly relevant today, even the last bit, which is why I've held off treating with the morals of the Acolyte until now. They are notable, and they are depressing, if not faintly terrifying. But the really depressing and terrifying thing is that people could spend $180 million on something they thought was so courageous and so good, but that is in every aspect from the technical to the moral so very, very bad. And that's it. That's the Acolyte. It is done. We've made it. I have kept an absolutely nightmarish schedule getting videos of this length out with this frequency, so now I intend to take a long and relaxing holiday. Oh, wait, what the fuck? Why is this on my screen? What is this? Why does it look so dumb? What is it? Oh, fuck.